say that it's not my nature. I am in no way undermining Mr. Selek. I may come across that way. I sincerely apologize.
Okay.
There are certain topics I just feel very passionate about.
Okay.
But it's not in my nature to.
Yes.
I did not intend to come across that way.
Okay. Okay.
Chairman, I also made reference to the documents that Council has that I would like you to have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we're going to vote.
Let me leave it to your counsel. He will know at the right time he would like. One way, of course, is that they can be given to the legal team who must see where they need to be slotted at, and obviously at the right time, you will wish to refer to them. And by then they must be in some bundle.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I may, I'm not sure exactly what the document is that Mr. Koko is referring to. I suspect it has something to do with the payments that were made to Trillion, but I'm not sure.
Okay, Chair, I refer to them. I will take my counsel through
Yes.
them. It is the minutes of the board, 22nd July 2015, and the minutes of the BTC, 26 February 2015.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let me just finalize on this issue, Mr. Koko, because, Chair, I know we are at Eskom Bundle 14C, but I would like to just quickly refer to 14D, just to emphasize the point. This is an application, 14D. It's an application by Eskom against Trillion and McKinsey.
Will somebody just check?
Just help Mr. Koko. 14D, page 1161. 1161. 1161. Is it 14D?
What did you?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. The orderlies are struggling there. Okay. Well, only a simple point. Chair, this is an affidavit in an application by Eskom against McKinsey and Trillion. This is when Eskom was reviewing the decision for these payments made of nearly 1.6 billion rand to McKinsey and Trillion. Mr. Pakemane Hadebe deposed the affidavit on behalf of Eskom, and he was the acting group chief executive for the applicant, which is Eskom. All I'm drawing your attention to is the paragraph on page 1195. Chair, you will recall we read portions of this affidavit during Mr. Singh's testimony. Just paragraph 8.2 on page 1195. There too, he refers to a meeting, and I'll read this paragraph. It says, on 2 September 2015, Mr. Aziz Laher, Eskom Group Compliance Manager and PFMA Corporate Specialist, addressed an email to a number of Eskom officials, including, amongst others, Mr. Martin Buys, Fresh Governor, Maya Bana, Charles Kalima, and various parties from legal and compliance and professional services. In that email, Mr. Lahaye specifically recommended that Eskom would need to apply to the National Treasury for approval of the deviation from the National Treasury instruction. This email appears. They refer to the attachment, or rather the item number in the record bundle, as they call it. And then paragraph 81 says, well, 80.3 says Mr. Lahaye raised this issue yet again in an email dated 14 September 2015, appearing at item 50. Paragraph 81 says, on or about 27 October 2015, Mr. Lahaye was called to a meeting in Mr. Koko's office. The meeting was attended by Mr. Edwin Mabelani, Eskom's Chief Procurement Officer of Eskom, Mr. Prish Govender, Eskom's then Project Director of Group Capital, and two representatives from McKinsey, Mr. Vika Saga and Dr. Alex Wise. Essentially then, Chair, the subsequent paragraphs repeat in essence what Mr. Lahaye said in his affidavit. So that aspect, Mr. Koko, I just wanted to draw to your attention that it was also captured in this affidavit of Mr. Pacamane.
Certainly, and I'm aware of the chair. And the point I'm making is that with the exception of Mr. Saga, who was not an Eskom person, he came from Transnet, but I don't know him for about so. Dr. Weiss was based at Megawat Park. Mr. Mabelani was my colleague. So the people that I mentioned, I use the word brain trust. So I would meet with them, and that's why I cannot say this meeting may or did not happen. I can't rule that out. But what I can say to you with certainty is that in that meeting, if ever it happened, Mr. Lahaye would not have been there. 1, 2 is that the instructions to bring external legal advisors did not
Get external legal opinion.
Did not come from me, and Mr. Sulanku, who was a corporate counsel at the time, did not get instruction from me. In the contrary, Mr. Mabelani, in his affidavit, goes into a great length about how external opinion was acquired, and in any event, when it was eventually acquired, I never had sight of it until this news came up.
Okay, well, Mr. Selega, the other people that are said to have been present at this meeting that are said by Mr. Lahaye as having been present, what have they said, if they've been asked to say anything about this meeting that Mr. Lahaye talks about?
I don't personally know whether they've been asked, Chair. I will ask the investigators whether they have.
Yeah, because it's just a question of taking Mr. Lahaye's affidavit and sending a request to them to say, we draw attention to these paragraphs about this meeting that is alleged to have taken place where you are said to have been present by Mr. Lahaye. Please indicate what you have to say about, one, whether you were present at such a meeting, two, what the content of the discussion was.
Yes, Chair.
And then including whether Mr. Koko said what Mr. Lahaye says he said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct, Chair. Chair, then, we can put this aside, Mr. Koko. Can we go back?
Because I guess what Mr. Hadebe says here doesn't add anything in substance about that meeting, because he was not part of the meeting. He's just repeating what Mr. Lahaye said.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. No, correct. I know that McKinsey didn't oppose this application, but Trillium did.
McKinsey did not oppose, yes, that's correct.
But Trillium did.
Trillium did. But it's of interest, Mr. Chair, that the latest affidavit of Dr. Weiss, which came in yesterday, clearly says that who was the lead negotiator, clearly says what my role was in the MSA negotiations, and it clearly says between July and October, when the negotiations happened, I was not involved. It does say that they met, they gave executives at Eskom feedback, which I confirm.
Yes. But it should be emphasized, Chair, I have a copy of that affidavit. It came too late to form part of the bundle.
Well, I don't need to see it now unless
Okay.
you propose to use it.
Yeah,
If you propose to use it, yes, I can have it, but
yes.
if you don't propose to use it, I can see it in the normal course.
Yes, no, I thought, Mr. Koko, it should be emphasized that the executives who were informed, which he says were informed, is actually, he specifically mentioned yourself. So that it's not executives unnamed
Now, he does mention Mr. Milefe as well.
Who were informed of what?
of the negotiations. Let me hand it up, Chair, so we can just quickly read through the...
Because Mr. Koko's point about this affidavit is that it confirms that he did not take part in the negotiations. Is that your understanding of what it says?
Or what the affidavit says.
Yeah, that's the point he makes about it.
Yeah, it says, I do not recall, in regard to Mr. Koko. Mr. Koko was not a member of the Eskom negotiating team. I do not recall him participating in any of the approximately 30 full-day negotiating sessions McKinsey held with Eskom during that period. He does say in paragraph 7, McKinsey began discussing the proposed top engineers program with Mr. Koko in his capacity as group executive for technology and commercial, and kept him appraised of this and related initiatives during his suspension, with the expectation that he would promptly return to his former position and be involved in executing these projects.
Yeah, paragraph 8 says,
Then paragraph 8 is the one I read first.
paragraph 8 says, I helped lead negotiations of the turnaround program, which lasted from approximately July 2015 to November 2015. Mr. Koko was not a member of the Eskom negotiating team. I do not recall him participating in any of the approximately of 30 full days. Oh yes, that's what you read.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if I need to see it now, otherwise it can be slotted where it should be slotted in the bundles.
But my point, Chair, and this is, and I apologize again, Mr. Seleka, is that here is a lead negotiator of McKinsey saying, we met on this date and this date to do the negotiations, and Mr. Koko was not part of it. And then you've got Ms. Mutepu's email that says Mr. Koko and Mr. Singh were the lead negotiators for Eskom, and they've changed things around and added and subtracted things. I think it's what it is.
No, it is important. The only reason I was saying I'm not sure that I should be given to me now is simply because it's clear what you say it says, and Mr. Selega confirms that, in effect, that seems to be what it says on the point. So the only thing really is, to the extent that whether Mr. Koko was part of the negotiations or not is important. Other people who are said to have been part of it, their affidavits can be obtained and they can indicate what their recollection is.
Yes, Chair. Obviously, 3 paragraphs are important there, 7, 8, and 9. and the chair will look at those paragraphs.
About the issue that Mr. Koko raises or what?
Yes,
Yeah, but you agreed with him that it says what he says it says.
yes, but it's preceded by paragraph 7, Chair.
Yeah, do they qualify what he says?
Which 7 says that the discussion began with Mr. Koko in regard to the top engineers program. And they kept him appraised of this and related initiatives during his suspension, which is...
But that, well, Mr. Koko's point is, here is a witness who says, I was not part of the negotiations. So I'm saying, to the extent that it is an important issue whether or not he was part of the negotiations, those who were part of the negotiations could be asked to say, because you have Ms. Mutepu who says he was, and you have Dr. Vice who says he wasn't. So it becomes important to find out what other people say who would have been at those meetings.
Chair, I think Mr. Silika is raising another topic on 7 that I must address if I think I understand him.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So all I'm simply saying is let's deal with one issue, put it out of the way. If there's another one, we can deal with it, but let's not mix them.
Let's not mix the two.
End up being confused. So I think it's, as far as the question of Mr. Koko being a part of the negotiations, we are clear about what Dr. Vice says. We know what Mr. Matepu says. It's a question of what other people who attended those meetings have to say. But then what is the other point?
But Chair, there's a documentary evidence that you must also consider, is that the people who were part of the negotiations compiled feedback to the board that we looked at the last time I was here.
Yeah.
On the 6th of October.
Yeah.
That feedback.
I remember that document.
That feedback told you who the board approved as a negotiator.
Yeah.
And it also told you who participated, who actually took part.
Yes, no, I remember that.
We are duty bound by at Eskom, or we were duty bound when the board approves a negotiating team and different people participate. We have to inform the board.
Yeah.
So that the board can condone the deviation.
I think what obviously this means is these things should be put to Ms. Mutepu.
Yes.
To say, here is what Dr. Vice says, here is that other document that Mr. Koko is referring to. Yes. Are you not mistaken about this? And then take it from there, and what is the response?
Yes. Okay. Chair, shall we go back to Eskom Bundle 14C, if it is still in front of you? That affidavit of Mr. Laher, and I want to finish off.
Yes.
Page 702.6, point 265.
Yes, okay,
Point
I'm
260.
there.
Yeah. Paragraph 10.30.10. He says, I said that this could actually be, so, but only with prior National Treasury approval. 10.31. Immediately after I was excused from the meeting, I looked for my boss, Mr. Tsolanku, to inform him what had transpired. He was not immediately available, but I saw him later the same day and explained what happened. I also expressed my discomfort with the general tone of the meeting. It appeared to me that management was still strongly intent on pursuing a risk-based remuneration structure for the contract. I also informed him of Mr. Koko's intention to obtain external legal opinion himself, which in itself was unusual, as the role of a line executive was to request such a service from the head of legal, who was the party that would evaluate the request and, if it had merit, approve it and make the appointment. I think the paragraph Mr. Koko makes it makes the distinction clear, which the chairperson was
Yes,
asking
yes.
to
Yes.
achieve earlier.
So I think that is right, and I think it probably provides an explanation why you took what Mr. Lahe said as meaning that you would not go through the normal channels of getting legal opinion, external legal
Correct.
opinion. So this explains that what he was talking about is his understanding was that you were going to go outside yourself to get with legal,
Yes.
external legal.
Yes.
You would not go through the channels.
Yes, and there would have been, for a person in my position, that would have been grossly irregular.
Yeah. He also says
Yeah.
it would be unusual. Yeah. Okay.
Then, okay, I'm leaving that part, Chair.
Yeah. And maybe for the sake of completeness, has it ever happened?
Has it ever happened that
You obtain external legal opinion directly, therefore without going through
no,
legal?
no, Chairman, I'm old enough in Eskom
Yeah.
to know what not to do to get my nose
Yeah.
bloodied.
Yes,
This is one of them.
And to your knowledge, is it something that it would happen from time to time
No.
that other people, not you, other people would do that?
No, one of the most powerful positions at Eskom is legal and compliance.
Yes. Yeah.
And it sits directly at Exco. So,
You can't just,
no, you can't.
okay, all right.
Besides the fact that engineers are bad lawyers, but you just don't do it. No, we don't do it, Chair.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
normally not done.
Mr. Selega.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. He does go into the paragraphs where he shows that, well, it was ultimately the legal department or division of Eskom that sought legal opinion from a senior counsel.
Very long time ago, Chair, I remember a very big dispute that ended up in court because lawyers were instructed by a division to do work, and they did the work, but they were never paid. And they even lost at court. And it's a very popular case study in Eskom. You instruct the lawyers directly, you'll pay them out of your own pocket.
Thank you. Mr. Koko, I want to refer to your testimony on the 29th of March, 2021. Before I finish off on the Master Services Agreement, I have printed out the relevant pages, and I'd like you to be given that, and your legal representatives to be given a page, and the chairperson to be given a page, a copy. That's the transcript or an extract from the transcript of 29 March 2021. And specifically from pages 19 and 20 of the transcript.
I remember this.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Koko. At the bottom of the page, on page 19, Chairperson, you are asking in relation to McKinsey. And Mr. Koko says, in relation to McKinsey, we called it Top Engineers Program. That decision was not only inconsistent with National Treasury's practice note, but was also against the Eskom directive.
I'm sorry, where are you reading from now?
Page 19, at the bottom of the page, of the transcript, the extract
Well,
from
the
the transcript.
transcript. Well, I'm expecting you to tell me numbers at the top.
Oh.
So that's why I'm looking at the top, or the page number is at the bottom.
It's at the bottom,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Right.
And I started with against the chairperson's name in relation to McKinsey.
What line? Because you've got the marginal line numbers there.
It's
10, 20.
Is It's after 20, it's the second line from the bottom.
Okay.
Yes. It says in chairperson, in relation to McKinsey. At the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Mr. Koko then start talking in relation to McKinsey. We called it Top Engineers Program. That decision was not only inconsistent with the National Treasury's practice note, but was also against the Eskom directive. So this directive, his directive, the chairperson,
That must be this directive.
this
You
directive.
know how they sometimes get this thing wrong
Yes,
when they transcribe.
that's correct.
Yeah.
But let me go to the next big paragraph where Mr. Koko is talking. He says, so ordinarily, if properly advised, the board would sit, I suppose, go sort this matter first with the National Treasury before you come to us. The board would not say we give you a mandate to negotiate without having assurance that indeed National Treasury will indulge, and that is the discussion that I had with the chairman. Now, I stopped there, Mr. Koko. This is specifically in regard to the SLA.
This is the SLA, yes.
The SLA, the Master Service Agreement.
Yes.
So with that in mind, Mr. Koko, and I'm finalizing on this, we need to explain to the chairperson, because what we see from that feedback report, well, I could firstly refer to an email to you from Mr. Prishgavenda, which I need to get now. But he talks about I'm going to give you the page reference. Let me just build this picture. It's an email of 2 September 2015. He sends you an update or a feedback.
Yeah, I remember it very well.
You remember
I
that?
remember very well, and the issues that needs to be resolved.
That's correct.
And one of them was National Treasury.
National
I
Treasury,
remember that
that's
very well.
correct.
Yes.
One of the issues was exactly National Treasury. And then you have the feedback report, which you mentioned earlier, of October 2015, which talks about the BTC having given a mandate to negotiate. And now you are giving feedback in that report that you have negotiated, and now you want to go ahead, I think, to conclude the agreement.
Correct.
With McKinsey. But even at that stage, National Treasury approval
It was not done.
had not been obtained. And matters don't end there. There is that conclusion of the agreement with a letter of acceptance.
Yes.
Well, let me say there's an offer and acceptance, not a conclusion. And then there is the steering committee meetings in 2016. And you were part of the steering committee meeting.
Correct.
Now, having said what you said to the chairperson in that transcript, that if properly advised, the board should have said, don't even go to negotiate. Try to get Treasury approval first before you embark on this exercise. How do you explain then, how did you and your colleagues go about the negotiations, forming the steering committee, you writing an offer acceptance letter, when you knew that
When
there
you
was
say
no
you, what do you mean?
that there was no Treasury approval?
When Mr. Seka says you, who's you?
You, Mr. Koko. Let me say you, Mr. Koko.
Yeah,
Let's leave the other people aside because they are not here.
Chair, Mr. Seleka will have to advise you. When we did the design to cost, and my counsel gave me a bit of a lecture about how to answer you. So I'm struggling now. So when we did the design to cost strategy, And that design to cost strategy happened after the email Mr. Seleka is talking about of the 2nd of September.
Yes. Let me give the page reference, Chair, at this juncture, just for the record or even for the chairperson. The same Eskom Bundle 14C, page 811.170.
That's the email. That's the
That's Mr. Prishgavin.
I don't need to go to that, I know it.
Yes.
So that pursuant to that precious email of the 22nd of September, which made it very clear that the National Treasury's approval is not in place. That is one of the reasons, if not the main reason, why I had a separate contract for the corporate plan with a fixed rate that is fully compliant with National Treasury requirement. So the letter that I wrote on the 29th of September was fully compliant with National Treasury. Chairman, let me tell you what, given my experience, which I have not shared with you, I would never play with National Treasury. They will blow me. So, and that is why the design to cost of the 29th, that came after the 2nd, the document you have in front of you of the 2nd of September was pursuant to my email of the 31st of August to Prish, Mr. Singh and Mr. Mabilana about colleagues, what is the progress on these negotiations for the MSA? Because on the 22nd of July, the board has given us a go-ahead to contract for the corporate plan. So that is why I asked for an update from them, because I thought if they come back to me and say, in engineering we say it's all systems go, the engineers will know what that means. If it's all systems go, I'll say sign, let's do what the board asked us to do. But I could not say sign, let's do what the board wants, because there was a serious condition that was not met. So that's the only thing that I've signed. The next letter that was signed on, offer letter, was signed on the 17th of December, 2015 by Mr. Mabilane. You've read it, and when you read it, it's encrypted. I can't just make sense of it now. You did not make sense of it now. That's the letter that Mr. Mabilane signed. I was not party to that letter. I had nothing to do with it. And that is why I asked, when you say sign the letter, on what basis do you do that? The evidence here was that the contract was concluded on the 7th of January. And there's enough evidence to suggest that that was not the case. It was backdated. I'm actually buying into that story of backdating. Anybody who says it was not backdated is not clued up upstairs. The evidence speaks for itself. But even then, the only thing that the team, and that's Mr. Dave Gori and Mr. Prishgavina, refers to, or the only alleged authority, if I can use that, is an email between Mr. Gori and National Treasury that they used to say we have approval from National Treasury. They use that email. Now, it's up to you to read that email and make up your mind whether it gives permission or not. But what eventually transpired, Chair, with that email notwithstanding, there was a general understanding, even within the team, that actually we don't have National Treasury's approval, that email notwithstanding. And people may not be frank enough, and this is what I'm saying, it depends who you talk to get to the truth. But once the penny dropped that we actually don't have
National Treasury
approved, people looked for reasons why it should not go ahead.
So, in other words, you are saying there were certain people who were very determined that it should go ahead, even without national approval.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying there was a point where, especially in the first meeting, Mr. Seleka, of the steering committee, when we are briefed. We've got National Treasury's approval, and the documentation is in place, and we accepted that. But soon after that, there was a clear
Understanding that there was no such approval.
that there was no such approval. And I think, having had regard of Mr. Leha's interaction now, I think that push came from legal. That actually, your reliance on the email does not cut it, because the requirement to give a concession from National Treasury is actually onerous. It even requires the presidency to do that. So you actually don't have it. And there was an understanding within the steering committee that actually we don't have, and we are in serious breach of National Treasury. And at that point, I'm saying, everybody looked for every single reason we can use, that can be used to terminate.
I was saying the opposite of what I put to you earlier. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm saying,
On the basis that there should have been an approval.
yes.
There is no approval.
Yes.
Let's terminate.
Yes.
Okay.
But, when I listen to some of my colleagues speak, I don't think they've got the guts to say, actually, there was no approval here, and we made a mistake there. I don't think that will or is there, but I am telling you what was in my mind at that point. That February, March, the writing were on the wall. We need to come out of this. We don't have the necessary approval. We have to come out of this. Of course, other opportunities may have presented themselves, but the real issue is other issues could be managed. Other issues were within our control.
Yeah.
But the National Treasury is one.
Yeah.
Eskom executives will tell you. If it's in the hands of National Treasury, then you're in
You have to
trouble.
comply.
You have to comply.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Senator.
Okay, so by February, March, the writing was on the wall that we need to get out of this. And I want to talk about the payment, but take you ultimately to the last payment, because you wanted to tell the chairperson about it. Ultimately, various amounts are paid to McKinsey and Trillion, the total of which is 1.593 billion.
We normally round it off to 1.6.
1.6, thank you.
And we say the 600 went to trillion.
Yes,
Actually 595 something.
that's right.
But that's 600.
Well, Mr. Koko and Mr. Selega, the two of you seem to be talking to each other now. Particularly you, Mr. Koko, you're talking so softly.
So
It's like you only want Mr. Selega to hear what you're saying.
the total amount that was paid to McKinsey and Trillion is 1.6. And
1.6 billion.
billion rands, yes. And R1 billion of that went to McKinsey. And 600 million of that
To trillion.
went to Trillion. Chair, it's a round of figure. The numbers are very close.
Yeah, okay.
No, that's correct. Then, Mr. Koko, let me give you the opportunity then to tell the chairperson about the last payment of 460 million rand. But this is the question I'm going to ask you so that you address the chairperson, because that payment is made on the 22nd of February 2017.
Yes.
And it came to the BTC for approval.
Yes, on the 8th of February.
Yes. And at that stage, you were the acting group chief executive officer.
That's correct.
Now I'm going to ask you not the question you were expecting, because the question you are expecting is the memorandum from Suzanne Daniels with Mr. Prish Govender and Mr. Madelani,
Understood.
which you refused to sign. My question is more on, in your capacity as the acting group CEO, why didn't you take a further step, which is not just to refuse to sign the memo, but to refuse them to make the payment in the light of the writing is on the wall, we should have gotten out of this contract?
Right. Chair, this is quite important. Eskom has got a delegations of authority. And everybody in Eskom acts within the delegations of authority. That's quite important. But I'm going to quickly take you through, I'm going to give you dates, and you may not write them down, but the transcripts will show you. And they will tell you what has transpired. And I think the gossipers and the people that are on the Koko hunt missed it, including your colleagues at the Pretoria North High Court, which is one of the painful things for me, because they've concluded there was a corrupt relationship. And I'm saying to you, if they had regard to the evidence that you now have, they would have reached a different conclusion. So the most important date is the 6th of July 2015. The 6th of July 2015 is a date that the BTC approved via a round robin the MSA, the negotiations with the MSA. The next important date is the feedback of the 6th of October 2015. That's when we gave the board the feedback, and that's when the board ratified the deviations from the mandate to the actual result of the negotiations. And in that feedback, you will see there's a requirement for compliance with National Treasury. That report I signed. I had no other option to sign. It was in my role to sign it. It tells you who negotiated it. It tells you who was approved to negotiate and who participated in the negotiations, and it gives you the scope, and it puts the cap for risk base to 11.98%, so it's 12%. Where I hear a rumor that says the price was not even capped. The cap is also in that BTC submission of 6 October 2015. Then comes the meeting of June, 21 June 2016. That's the meeting of the BTC that resolved to cancel the MSA.
Is that in line with the realization you talked about in March, February, March?
Yes,
right?
Chairman, there's other reasons that are added there.
Yes, that's fine.
There's other reasons,
Continue.
but I can tell you now, knowing what I know, other issues Eskom could have resolved.
Yeah.
But this one they could not resolve. And the 21 June 2016, a submission was made to the board, unbeknown to me, and I had no reason to do it. I did not sign the document. I'm mentioning this, Chair, so that you can base your judgment at the end on evidence, and you go and look at the document of the 21 June 2016. You'll find the team that put it together. You will not find my name there. I'm not one of them. The next one.
I'm sorry. Do you happen to know where that document is to be found in the bundle? Maybe your junior could check, and then we could put that on record.
It's in bundle
so
18,
that,
I think.
The BTC minutes.
Yeah, it's the meeting, the submission to the BTC of 21 June 2016, where it was recommended to the board to cancel the MSA. You have it nicely set up in your bundle. I think it's bundle 18. They come in quite nicely. Yes. It's one of the nicely put together documents. It helped me.
Yeah, well, this team, well, I say this team, the legal team and the investigation team and the secretariat who put these documents together seem to have impressed quite a few witnesses. including one of the
Including Mr.
witnesses who
Koko.
appeared last week.
Yeah, I must tell you, when I got it,
Yeah.
it was easy for me to follow.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So your junior could look it up, and then you could just mention on record in which bundle, on which page it appears, so that when one goes through the transcript, one can come across that and go to the bundle. Yes, continue, Mr. Koko.
The next document, the next board submission is the submission of the 8th of August, 2016. And that was to give the board feedback that you said we must cancel and we must go and renegotiate. And they came back to the board and says we've renegotiated and the settlement amount is 1.8 billion rands. Again, that submission had nothing to do with me. Well, I was not part of it. It's not that I did not have nothing to do with it. If I was made part of it, I would have...
You did not take part
I did not take part of it. I think
in formulating it.
I
Yeah.
did not take part in formulating it. I didn't even know about it. If I was consulted, I would have probably taken part of it and I would probably advised, but I did not. It ended up at the board tender committee. The board tender committee did say in that meeting, Mr. Cook, they mentioned my name, my position, the board delegates your position, must form part of the people to renegotiate further the 1.8 billion. On the 13th of December, the team came back again
That's
between
2016.
again between the 8th of August and 13th of December. I never participated in it, I never took part in it. The board came back the team came back to the meeting, gave them feedback and requested a payment, a further payment of 113 million,
134 million.
134 million, yes.
Is that December?
That's in December,
Yeah.
yes. 13 December 2016.
That's right.
Again, I was not party to it. And the way it works, Chair, once the board delegates you may not even be in the meeting. You have to be prompted by the secretariat that in your absence, the board delegated this to you. Otherwise, you never know. And I did not, and the team leader, the project manager, must set up meetings, get involved, and then you apply your mind. That never happened. Then come the next meeting of 8th February 2017. There was not even a submission there. Mr. Prish Governor and Mr. Swen Daniels went to present the final settlement of 460 million rands. There was not even a submission there. I sent Mr. Selek, my counsel, my lawyers, and I gave the recordings of that meeting to my attorney to send them to you.
Is that the BTC meeting? Was that a BTC meeting?
It was a BTC meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you say you have got the audios?
Yes, I made sure that my attorney sent them to Mr. Sebastian.
I believe it was being sent yesterday, Chair.
No. This is very old stuff. Yesterday's one was different.
Oh, well, I don't know then. Which one was being sent? Because I haven't had a chance to look.
The audio of the meeting of the 8th of February 2017.
Apart from the audio, is there a transcript of the audio?
No, Chair.
There's no transcript of the audio?
No.
Okay. If the contents are important of the audio, I would like them to be transcribed. So one can have the audio, but also one can have a transcript.
Chairman, it's very important that I actually tried to get them transcribed, but we didn't do a good job in transcribing it, and I gave up. I've got the transcripts, but they're not for your level, so I didn't want to upset. I didn't want to upset you.
Okay. So the legal team, if that can be arranged so that there's a transcript, I want to avoid going to an audio unless there is a dispute about what's in the transcript. Yes. The transcript would be more convenient.
Yes, no, we'll attend to it.
So the reason I went for the audio it's again people coming here to mislead you. And it saddens me that when that happens, unless I have a document or an audio to prove them wrong, then I look the corrupt party. So the Eskom went to court and said Mr. Koko negotiated the conclusion of the settlement agreement. That's the Eskom version in court, on the basis of which the judges made the conclusion that I have a corrupt relationship with Mr. Salemisa. But I've just taken you through the documents that shows that I never took part into these negotiations, including the conclusions of it. And the affidavit of the lead negotiator of McKinsey says so. But the important part is that the person making these allegations is actually the one who made these submissions, Ms. Daniels. He's the one who says, Mr. Koko this, Mr. Koko this. Mr. Koko concluded that. But that audio tells you exactly who presented to the BTC. It's none other than Mr. Daniels and Ms. Daniels and Mr. Govender. If I did not have that audio, I'll still look the bad one. But in that meeting, Ms. Daniels does an interesting part.
Well, I wanted to say, Mr. Koko, a few minutes ago you said unless you have a document to disprove what other witnesses say, you look the corrupt one. And I wanted to say, if I was noting, I wasn't noting that you look the corrupt one if you don't produce a document. I was just acknowledging that I hear what you are saying. So I don't want anybody later on, if there is a review saying, let's watch what the chairman did. Look, he was nodding, so he thought I was the corrupt one.
You agree. Yeah. But the important part, Chair, in that audio.
Sorry, Mr. Are you talking about the meeting of December now?
No. 8 February 2017.
Oh, okay. That's BTC meeting.
That's BTC meeting.
Okay,
Yes,
carry on.
you may continue.
She says to the commission, to the BTC, the settlement agreement has been audited.
Has been audited.
Yes. It's the
What
outcome,
is that supposed to mean?
It's an outcome of an audit process. When we know at that time, the auditors were not even appointed, were not even on the job.
But what would it mean ordinarily to say a settlement agreement is audited?
Well,
Has
it
been
means
audited.
you have a third-party independent person
Who has looked at it and satisfied?
who has looked at it and satisfied.
Oh, okay.
And
It doesn't have to be an auditor.
no, it does not have to be, but it has to be in engineering. We said it must be a competent person.
Yeah.
If it's a legal matter,
Yeah.
the competent person must be senior counsel.
Yeah.
If it's an accounting matter, I apologize.
Yeah.
If it's an accounting matter, the competent person must have
Yeah.
a relevant qualification. If it's an engineering matter, the competent person must be a professionally registered engineer with so much
Okay.
experience.
Okay, that's what she was. In the context of a settlement agreement, that probably meant it had been looked at by a legal person.
There would have been a legal person.
Yeah.
There would have been a legal person.
Yeah.
But that was false, Chair. And in hindsight, a person making false representation, even denying that he was part of that meeting, and only change his mind when he's confronted by the audios. I mean, she went to the parliamentary inquiry and rubbished me without telling them that I actually, the one who presented and motivated to the board to get this 160 million rands paid. Chair, there's a bigger problem, and I said to Counsel outside, if the chair does not see these documents, but this one he must see. And Mr. Selig, I'm coming to your answer.
I'm glad you sense that.
Your answer is quite simple.
Yes.
The delegations of authority of
Just
Eskom,
face the chairperson.
the delegations of authority of Eskom deliberately excludes the CE from being involved in commercial process.
Okay,
It's by design.
okay. So that's why you would not have given any instruction.
That's why I could not.
Okay,
You will see that there's a board resolution. The board is above the CE.
yes,
There's a board resolution, so the matter has served at the board. The board has resolved. So now,
you can't, it's at a higher level.
it's at a high level, I'll be suspended again for defying the board. Yeah, so and I don't want to go there, but Chair,
So the,
Of course, as a group CEO, acting group CEO, you would be entitled if you thought the board was doing something wrong to say to them, but I know you have made this resolution, but I just want to check whether you are aware that you shouldn't make it because of, you should not have made it because of A, B, C, D. Were you aware of these things? If they say we were aware, they go ahead. There's nothing you can do. But as Group CEO, I don't think that you can allow the board to do something that you know is wrong and not raise a voice.
Chair, I've done that even when I was a junior.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
When I received
Yeah.
instructions from the board that I think the board is not authorized to do, and they've done it. I've done that, and I've done it in this specific instance as well.
Yeah.
The case we're talking about,
Yes. Okay.
I've done that, and I would like my counsel, Mr. Barr, if you can give, Chair, the document of that memo of the 17th of October.
Chair, if I may, there are two small bundles of documents that are relevant here. The one contains copies of the trillion invoices, and the other is a covering note to Mr. Koko of a document that you will recognize. These documents emanated from the disciplinary inquiry bundles relating to Ms. Daniels', I'm talking about the latter document, relating to Mrs. Daniels' disciplinary inquiry at Eskom. So there are actually two documents. The one of the, Mr. Koko, I presume will be able to explain that. The other document is really the one that's the important one that I think he wants to refer to. So,
Just hang on to them. I want to receive them in the right way. Now, if they are obviously important, if you are going to, maybe I should see them now if you are going to elaborate, but if you will deal with them maybe more fully at some stage in the future, then what should be done, I would like them to go into a proper file, so that we can allocate them the exhibit number and everything properly, because if they just get handed up now,
yes, Chair,
it's just for seeing and not...
It's our experience that if we hand documents up to you here, that actually don't find their way into the bundles, but we will make sure that this document you make it available electronically and however. But it is important that you see it now to understand Mr.
So we can
Koko's
take it back
evidence
and-
in context.
I can have a look at it now, there's no problem, but I just want to make sure that they find their way into a bundle that will be among the bundles that I will consider ultimately.
We will make very sure of that.
Yeah, okay, all right, then I can have those.
There are 4 copies of each, so one for you and then the others I will distribute inter alia to Mr. Koko.
Yeah.
Chairman, the document you have is one of the painful moments for me in this process. That, you know, I tweet a lot, and when I'm on Twitter, I become very abrasive of people who have no personal knowledge of what I'm dealing with. And I look forward to sharing this document, and then you'll understand the pain I'm going through.
Well, the one you are referring to in particular is the settlement agreement or the other document? There are two. Or are they part of the same?
The one is the first one is the settlement agreement.
Yeah.
Mr. Koko, you were referring the chairperson to a memo of 17 October. I don't know which year,
2017.
2017. Can we deal with that first? Is that fine?
That's the one I'm dealing with.
That's the one. Okay.
Chair, you'll see that this is a document. It's got a covering note to the group chief executive.
I'm sorry. I talk about the memo that is just underneath the settlement agreement page.
Yes, yes. So it's a final settlement.
That's a memo from Mr. Mabelane to you.
Correct.
When you were interim group chief executive, which is dated 17 February 2017.
Correct.
Okay, I think Mr. Selega said 17 October, if I'm not mistaken. So 17 February.
2017.
Yes, no, well,
Oh, you were
it should
talking
be
about
corrected
another
because I heard Mr. Koko say.
I apologize. It's 17 February,
Yeah.
2017.
Yeah, okay.
Chair, I received this memo from Ms. Daniels, contrary to her protestations. And you will see what, like my counsel says, we got this fairly recently from your commissioning bundle, from your team's bundle. But this document was part of the disciplinary hearing of Ms. Daniels. And you'll see it says received by. You see the date?
On what page?
On the very first page. It's got
I
handwritten.
don't see received by.
On
You
the
mean
hand-
on the settlement page?
Yes, the first page, it's written at the top right corner, C201.
Yes, I can see that.
At the bottom right, it says received by the chief executive.
Or received 23 February 2017, chief executive, yes.
So this document was received by my office on the 23rd of February.
Yes,
And you'll see the notes I make, handwritten notes,
yes.
on the 25th of February 2017. And I make notes there. Who is delegated by the BETC to implement the MSA?
That's your handwriting.
That's my handwriting.
Yes.
Right now, Chair.
And the signature that comes immediately below
That's mine.
MSA,
That's
is your
mine.
signature.
That's mine.
And that's on 25 February 2017.
That's mine.
Yes, okay.
Now,
Continue.
Chair, I would not write this sentence if I was delegated and if I negotiated this settlement. I would not. And then the bottom line, I'm writing a note to my PA. Because now it goes when
Is
when
that
I-
Prish?
No. When I
that's
receive the document, it's my in-tray. So I go through my in-tray and nobody's
Yeah.
in the office. So I just make notes.
Yeah, yeah.
So now this note will be read
By your PA.
by my professional assistant.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to Prish, let's have a discussion on the 1st of March 2017.
Oh, okay. Oh, you also wrote, that's your handwriting there,
Yes.
which say, please, please, let's discuss. And then you've got 1/3/2017.
Correct.
That's the date when you want the discussion to happen.
Yes,
And that's your signature after discuss.
correct.
Okay, all right. And
Sure.
Prish is Prish Governor.
Prish Governor is a project
Yes.
manager.
Okay.
So if you go to the last sentence, last page of 203,
Which would be the second page of the memo.
yes,
Okay.
you see that signatures are all there and they're not dated.
Yes.
They're
Yes, they are
dated.
not dated.
Yes,
And yours is not there.
and mine is not there. Right. Chair, what's important, and Mr. Seleka knows that the invoice, this payment was done on the 22nd.
The day after you had, or before you received it,
Before I received this,
because you received this on the 23rd of February.
correct,
You say the payment was made the day
was already
before.
done.
Yes.
And-
Okay.
And let's look at what the team was asking me to approve.
Yes.
If you go to the recommendation, to C203 says, to settle the outstanding amount payable to McKinsey and BE partner of 460 million rands to conclude the termination agreement. So the team is asking me to give them approval to pay 460 million, that was already paid. And the same person who brought this to me goes to Parliament and come to this commission and say, Mr. Koko is the one who negotiated this settlement. Chair, this is what I go through.
So you say, one, you didn't sign this
Yes,
memorandum which had been compiled by, well, it doesn't say, it says supported by, it doesn't say who compiled it. I thought that.
normally it will come and say
Normally say
combined,
who
combined
compiled.
by. Yes. But I can,
Is this unusual?
this is unusual.
Yes.
Normally,
It's
normally
like
to
nobody
say-
wants to know that he or she is the one who compiled it.
yes, and there's another anomaly here. Normally it will say compiled by,
Yeah,
recommended by,
and then approved by.
and approved by.
Yes. So this one says supported by
Yes,
Prish Governor, supported by Adrian Mabelan, supported by Susan Daniels, approved. Then, of course, your signature is
Yes.
not there. But it does say who compiled it. But on the first page of the memo, it says it is from Mr. Edwin Mabelane. And
no, it's from Prish Governor. And the note says Prish Governor.
But the memo itself.
Oh, yes, the memo says Mr. Babilani.
Yes.
well, I'm saying if you look at C2.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, Chair.
Yes, it's a memo that is addressed to you and purports to come from Mr. Edwin Mabelane.
Correct, Chair.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So I guess it's odd that he should sign that it was supported by him rather than it was from him.
Yes.
Because yeah, okay.
Right. Now, Chair, now the invoice, I've also attached the next document is the invoice for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've put all the McKinsey invoice, but the one that is relevant. Yes, is the one dated 21st February, is the last one, very last one. 176 million rands.
Yes, now that is the other small kind of bundle. That's an invoice from Trillium, and it's addressed to Mr. Edwin Mabelane at Eskom, and it is dated 15 February 2017, and it's for professional services management consulting for the following Eskom initiatives: procurement, primary energy claims generation, and it's 154,677,525 rand 69 rand plus VAT. Then it comes to, with VAT, it comes to 176,332 332,379.29.
This invoice,
Yeah, you want to talk about this one?
this invoice was received on the 21st and was paid on the 22nd.
It was received by Eskom on the 21st
Yes.
of February 2017 and was
Paid
on the 22nd.
on the 22nd.
Okay. You want to tell me where it shows, where is proof that it was paid on the 22nd, or is
Chair,
that
I
not in
don't
these
have where it's
documents?
paid, but it's on the Eskom court papers that says 22nd.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Now, Chair, the point I'm making to you is, an invoice come on the 22nd, or 21st, get paid on the 22nd. On the 23rd, I receive an I don't know what you call it, memo that says give us permission to pay what has already been paid, without being told that it's paid. I arranged a meeting on the 1st of March, which never take place. Now, Ms. Daniels, who is the contact person between, I never had contact with Mr. Mabelani on this topic, on these invoices. I had contact with Ms. Daniels.
So you never had contact with whom
Mr. Mabelani,
about this?
about the invoices. I had contact with Ms. Daniels.
Yeah.
I never had contact with Mr. Kavenda. I had contact with
Daniels.
with Ms. Daniels. And
Okay.
she's the one who goes around and tells people how corrupt I was, without telling the commission the machinization that's been happening here. And that's the pain I go through, Chair. And that is why I'm saying, forget what Mabungani says, forget what Outer says, forget what Open Secret says, forget what Mutepu says. The documents are here in front of you. They speak for themselves. Finally, Chair, I want to take you, if you look at the document of the invoice, you can't read it. I think it's small, but I put it there deliberately. Because when I talk about managing contract in SAP, SAP tells you who did what. SAP is an audit trail for you. So once you take this invoice, you go into SAP, you'll say, oh, this is the person who created the order. This is the person who did goods received. This is the person who released the payment. And if you want to know how that invoice would be done, was done, and you are not targeting a person, by now you should have the affidavits of the people who are on these invoices. And I'm not on these invoices. So when the judge, when a full bench of the Pretoria High Court says, when Mr. Koko received invoices, he paid them with alacrity. I don't even know how to spell that term. It's not supported by facts. It's not supported by evidence. And Chair, the only people who could have given the court this evidence is Eskom. They chose not to give the court this evidence because they were on the Koko hunt. They are on the hunt to make the court think that Mr. Koko is a bad, corrupt fellow. And they Eskom had all these documents before them. Mr. Pakamani does not depose the Eskom affidavit, but frankly, he never had personal knowledge of what he was disposing of. So he did not know what he was telling the courts. But the people who briefed him had all this document. They could have said to the court, actually, this is how these payments were made, and the court would have reached a different conclusion.
Well, these documents, you do have them, Mr. Selega, in the bundles?
Yes, the memo is contained in Mr. Koko's bundle.
Yeah.
This memo dated, just for the record, dated 17 February 2017, is in Eskom Bundle 15, page 363, marked Annexure MMK 35.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the covering note.
It does not have the covering note.
Yes, it doesn't have the covering note.
Okay.
And then the invoices.
Well, before you go to the invoices, I may be mistaken, but I don't remember Ms. Daniels being questioned on this memo, was she?
No, she was, Chair.
She was questioned.
Yes.
Did she explain why Mr. Koko's signature is not there, but
Yes.
hers and the other people's? were
Yes.
there? Do you remember what his explanation
Yes,
was?
she said Mr. Koko refused to sign.
Oh, okay.
That comes way back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that payment had taken place the day before, was that also put to her?
No, as I say, we
Yeah.
didn't have
Oh, you
this
didn't
covering
have this
note.
info, this, okay.
Yeah, because the memo is dated the 17th of February,
Yes,
and she was also uncertain about when did she receive the memo. We knew the date of payment, at least from the investigators, but
Yeah.
we didn't know when did Mr. Koko receive it.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you say you didn't have the invoices, that.
The covering note,
You didn't have the covering note,
yes,
the covering note to the memorandum.
to the memorandum.
And then on the invoices, you didn't have the invoices, or you did have, or you don't know yet?
There's one invoice I know is in the bundles. Oh, my junior says all of them are in the bundle except for the first page
Yeah,
of the batch that Mr. Koko has handed up.
yeah.
They are all in Eskom bundle 14 bracket C. Sorry, Charlotte. Let me just indicate.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to check what you had.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
Yes. Mr. Koko, going back to the covering note, I see the last note you made that please let's discuss. Is the date there 1/3/17?
I'm sorry, Mr. Selega. No, I'm
Yes.
thinking about the issue of documents that Mr. Koko brings up from time to time. Maybe what should happen is that ahead of him giving evidence, obviously, from your side, you would know what is to be covered, and he would know what is to be covered
Yes.
in terms of scope. If he has any documents that he would like to be handed up, maybe Mr. Koko, those could be sent to Mr. Selega in advance to say you would like these documents to be part of the bundle, and ahead of the hearing, they can be put in a file, or they would be slotted in the right place. But what would happen is, as he questions you and you give your evidence, at the right time, a reference can be made to the documents you want to refer to, but they would only also already be in a bundle, and they can be admitted there and then. So that then it's much more orderly.
Understood,
than
Chair.
if they are handed up. Let's do it that way. Yeah.
I apologize. Chair.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, all right. Continue, Mr. Selega.
Okay, I think you said yes to the date, Mr. 1/3/17.
Correct.
Now, that's 1 March 2017. Can you recall the reason why at that stage you would have wanted to speak to Mr. Govender?
First, my first question is there, who is delegated to deal with this? That's a very important part for me. because in fact, I knew then, Chair, what I was going to ask this person. Why are you doing this? Why?
Because you are not delegated.
The person who is,
Or who is delegated.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, who is this BE partner? Remember the question, and that was the most important part for me. I knew who the BE partner here is they're referring to. I had no doubt about.
Hang on, I think the two of you are are leaving me behind. Where were you reading from just now, Mr. Sileka?
On the covering note, Chair.
Oh, the same documents.
Yes, covering note. But Mr. Koko is more knowledgeable. And he
Yeah, but
goes-
what was your question to him?
At the last note, the handwritten note is, Prish, please let's discuss.
Yeah,
And the date below that is 1/3/17,
yeah,
which is 1 March 2017.
yeah.
So I asked Mr. Koko whether that's correct. He says yes. And then my question was, can he recall at that stage, which is 1 March 2017, what is it that he wanted to discuss with Mr. Govender? And Mr. Koko, let me
Oh, yeah.
add to that, because there's a gap between your first note, the date of your first note, which is 25 February 2017, and 1 March 2017.
Yes.
If you could explain
Yeah,
that gap.
and that gap is probably driven by my diary, and it also tells you I had no agency. This was not
So urgent.
it was not an urgent matter for me. At Eskom, we deal with urgent issues, Chief DCJ, and life stops when it's urgent. But the fact that I put this date here tells you
Yeah. Yeah, there was no urgency as far as we were concerned.
there was no urgency
On this one.
On this one, this thing can wait.
Yeah.
Ask Prish to come see me.
Yeah, in a
on
week's
this,
time.
on this date, and I make this note there. First note, Mr. Sileka would have been my 8 memo, just to remind me on the discussions.
Or the first one,
Yeah, the first one would be my.
who is delegated by the PTC to implement the MSA.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I get that person, I'll ask him, this BE person, even though it's not written, I know who he is. Because it came to me first, previously, and I said no. So how are you going to pay this person?
Okay, no, I think it's that part that was confusing me. And I thought maybe there is a reference to the page, to the BEE person or that you're talking about.
Chair, if you go to let's stick with the top right corner, C203.
Yes.
See, it says we're going to pay Mackenzie, and ordinarily it will stop there.
Oh, okay, so it's, a final settlement, or to settle, the recommendation is to settle the outstanding amount payable to McKinsey and the BE partner. Oh, so what you are now raising is,
Ordinarily,
in effect,
ordinarily it will stop at Mackenzie,
yeah.
because
yeah.
that's our contracting partner. That's
Yes.
that's the person we're settling with.
And the payment must go to them, to
And the
McKinsey.
payment must go to them.
And if they have to pay a BE partner, that's
They
their
can
own
pay
business.
they can pay their BE partner.
Yeah, okay. So here it says to pay McKinsey and the BE partner.
Yes, and that's a problem.
Yes.
And that was the problem I saw then.
And you said at the meeting with Mr. Govender, you were going to ask how the BE partner was going to be paid.
And why is he there in the first place?
And why is it mentioned there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. But you obviously have quite something to say about this. Why do you think the BE partner is meant, or the reference to BE partner is there?
No, Chair, because it confronted me before. And not only did it confront me before with Ms. Goodsell, but I had met Mr. Essa and Mrs. Sagar as well, and we discussed the payment. And the process of payment was an issue. And I made it clear to them all the time that we can only pay McKinsey on the work that was done and approved by McKinsey. McKinsey can employ whoever they want to employ. But
Yeah, no. I think I have just realized something. You see, both you and Mr. Singh get questioned on some of the transactions are the same that you get questioned on, I think. And I seemed to think that something that I now realize must have been said by Mr. Singh. I thought you had also said the same thing, because in regard to the payment
no,
of...
I don't subscribe to payment of trillion being, I don't subscribe to
Yes, that's exactly what I'm realizing, that what you are clarifying now is that you don't go along with that.
No.
Yes,
no.
because
And
Mr. Singh was...
That's right.
You probably were watching when we were questioning him on that. So for you, the position was payment was to go to the main contractor, that is McKinsey. If they had a BE partner, as Eskom would have said they should have, that's their business, how they pay their BE partner. Eskom was not going to pay the BE partner directly. Is that right?
Chairman, that was my response on the 10th of February, 2016, when I had a meeting with Ms. Goodson. That's that interesting meeting that we had. And it was also my response in the workshop that happened immediately after that, on the 10th of, with Mr. Naga, Mr. Salimisa, and either Mr. Mabilani or Mr. Governor, who accompanied me to that meeting. So it's Chairman, it's not something we can debate it. Eskom's rules are clear, right? But I don't want to...
Actually, now I remember that Mr. Singh testified that there was a policy both at Transnet and at Eskom, if I remember well, which authorized the payment of BE partners directly.
To subcontractors, yes.
So, yeah, am I right? That's what he said.
That's what he said about Eskom.
Yes, and I said we should have that.
Yeah, and that's, sorry.
We have not got that, or we are still waiting for it, or we know that it's not going to have to come.
No, that's what I indicated earlier, Chair, that we received it in the wee hours of this morning. It's a letter from an Eskom official. It's a letter from an Eskom official.
Yeah.
Who says, and we are asking her to do that in an affidavit, that there is no such a policy.
Okay.
They've looked at version 2, 3, and 4 of the policy, but the policy doesn't have a provision that authorizes Eskom to make payment directly to subcontractors.
Yes, okay.
But Chair, it's your show, but I would ask you not to waste your time.
Yeah, Mr. Koko said it's undebatable. It's not a debatable issue.
No, but there is a witness who has come here
correct.
and said there is. So it's important that we gather evidence which either supports what he says or refutes what he says.
Correct.
So that's what I say. I mean,
Yeah, Chair, I generally don't want to comment on other weaknesses, particularly Eskom, so I will not. But I just think that my former colleague was mistaken.
yes, okay.
That policy, Chair, should be in the document called 321034.
Yes, to which he also referred, I think.
Yeah, so it's not.
If it's not there,
If it's not there, I think she was mistaken. I think he was mistaken.
yes.
I think he was mistaken.
Yes, well.
That's the best, that's how far I can take it.
No, I realize that, Mr. Koko.
There's a distinction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Chair,
confine yourself to
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yes.
just to conclude, Mr. Sileka, the purpose for the meeting of the 1st of March, I knew what I wanted to discuss
Yeah,
with Mr. Kabenda, who was the project manager. I was very clear. But also, I was in, if you go to the minutes of, oh yeah, the second part I wanted to discuss, Mr. Sileka, and that question was rhetoric. If you go to the minutes of the 8th of August 2016, you will see in there that I was one of the persons delegated by BTC to conclude this contract.
yes. Okay.
I knew that. And my point was, but hang on. I was in that meeting when you guys made a presentation, and the board delegated to me. But this has never come to me. And now I must approve 460 million rands. You may have done a good job. I'm not quitting there.
Yeah,
But surely I deserve much better level of involvement. And I think this is the only reason why this document came to me.
just repeat that, I think, come closer to the mic.
I think this is the only reason why this document came to me, because they knew that I was one of the delegated persons.
You mean the reason, that's the reason why it came to you late, after payment had been made?
Yes.
Yes.
They realized.
Because they realized that you would not approve.
Well, they realized two things: that they will have difficulty, and two, in terms of the board, they have to consult with me. It's a misconduct if they don't do it. And now that it's done, let us do it after the facts and hope that he does not have a presence of mind, or he agrees with us just sides, and then it never comes back, and it is.
Of course, wouldn't they, before payment could be made, somebody must have approved. And
that somebody is supposed to be me in terms of the board.
Yeah, now, the question is who approved? And if that person was not the right person, why was payment effected?
Chairman, now you are going exactly to what I've been telling you all along. Managing contract in SAP.
Yeah.
You will not take more than an hour to get to your answer. And that's why I have a problem with your investigators, because it's easy. You go into Eskom, you give them a 45 number, they go into SAP, they will draw out the document that you'll see that is not legible, and this document will tell you exactly who was involved, and that person must give you the authority he relied on to produce this document.
Yes, yes.
And the only reason, Chairman, I think that has not been happening is because it will lead them, the people that have always condemned me, it will lead them to a different target. But they are fixated on me, and that's why they don't want to do anything that will lead them to the other people. It's quite simple, Chair. I should not be sitting here explaining these invoices. I did not participate. I had nothing to do with them. I should not be here. I should not be the person whose name arises out of North Gauteng High Court. I should not be the one. But these things are it's a hunt. We want this guy. Show us anything that we can get, that we can link him. When Mr. Sileka went through the McKinsey invoices, and I got very upset, if you remember, and I even used an unfortunate way that you are twisting these things. Because I thought, Mr. Sileka, these emails, these 7 emails you spend the whole day doing, have nothing to do with the MSA. Have absolutely nothing to do with the MSA. I am wondering why we're spending the whole day trying to link me to them, because they don't. And I'm pleased that McKinsey has come out yesterday to say, actually, they don't. But we should not have spent the whole day previously, and now we are running a town on 7 invoices, 7 emails that have nothing to do with the MSA, except that it's a hunt.
Well, those questions that I'm asking Mr. Selega, are there answers in terms of what you have got there, the affidavits have got the information? Who approved this payment? Because before payment was made, somebody must have approved. And did the person who approved, was the person who approved authorized to approve? Mr. Koko says he was the delegated person. And what explanation is there for that approval to have been made if there is an approval? Or did the payment get made without approval? And what's the explanation? And what's the explanation from Ms. Susan Daniels and Mr. Mabelane, who was the other one, Mr. Governor, in the memo of 17 February 2017 for seeking Mr. Koko's approval after the payment had been made? Were they aware that payment was made or was effected on the 22nd of February? So those questions.
Chair, you know, SIU, SIU has served me with summons. They're demanding 600 million, they're demanding 3.8 billion rands from me. We will get into the McKenzie, we will go into the Tiketa one, but 600 million rand of that is this invoices. And every time when they tweet, in auction you see this Yabazuma, so I tweet back and say, can you update the nation about the 3.8 billion rands? Because they are on the, and just for the record, because I'm on TV, I will have to say, they are on the hunt for nothing. I mean, if you look at the documents here, you can see that the only reason SIU and Eskom issued invoices against me, having regards of the evidence that's here, is because they want to please somebody. They want to please somebody that says, we are on the Koko hunt and we are resolute, we'll even issue invoices, summons, even when there are no prospects of success, given the evidence that is here. It's sad.
So, yes, Mr. Salaga.
Yes, Chair. I've just inquired from the investigators. They don't have affidavits from witnesses addressing these questions. Their investigation has, however, uncovered who would have done the authorization and so on. But I think we will have to pursue that with the individuals who seem to have played a role.
We need to have affidavits from those people.
Yes.
From people who can answer those questions.
Yes.
And then the matter is urgent because we don't have time in terms of the time left for the commission to finish. So it's urgent, and they may have to be, or some of them, one or more, may have to be called to give evidence.
Yes.
So, okay, all right.
Yes. Chair, let me, well, a couple of things. Can I just correct one thing, Mr. Koko? The only invoice on which we laid evidence was the 30.6 million. And that was in respect of Mr. Singh, because he received that invoice and we were putting to him that he forwarded the invoice in order for the payment process to take its course.
That's correct.
Yeah. The other invoice, I haven't referred to them.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I could not have been said to have been mistaken, or whether I'm twisting something.
No, Chair. Mr. Secretary is correct. The only invoice he's referred to is the 30.6 million invoice. I don't, maybe I'm slowing down, but I don't remember saying you dealt with the others. No, if I did that, I take it back. All what I said was we spent the whole day on the 29th of March on the 7 invoices, on the 7
Emails.
Oh yeah, maybe that's why.
Well, yeah, well, it's emails or invoice, but
On the emails,
Yeah.
on the emails, we
Yeah.
spent on the 7.
But the emails, were the emails not about the
MSA.
the emails with info portal
No,
and
no, no,
the traveling? That was different.
No. There
It
were
was-
seven invoices on.
You say invoices again.
7
Emails.
emails on Mackenzie.
Mm-hmm.
One was at Medupi, one was a presentation, and I know them well, Chair, because
Yeah.
I remember them well.
Yeah.
And that is why I got a little bit upset with Mr. Seleka and say, you are twisting some of this. Because I knew the contents
Yeah.
of the emails and how they arose
Yeah.
and why. And I also knew that they had nothing to do with the MSA.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing to do with the MSA.
No, that's
and my
fine, but what
frustration
you-
was that here we sitting and looking at these emails that have nothing to do with MSA, and I'm being just dragged into it. And I'm relieved that Mackenzie has clarified that.
No, that's fine. But I don't know whether this does happen. It may well be that what happens is that Mr. Koko gets given affidavits that are said to implicate him or maybe implicating him. He sits with his lawyers and they prepare responses. And that's that. But there are no sessions involving the investigators of the commission or the legal team with Mr. Koko, with or without his legal team, to look at matters and pick up any things like these ahead of.
Yeah, but Chair,
before
let
the
me,
campaign,
let me again apologize upfront. I am hurting. I am hurting. For 3 years, I've heard the same story 20 times, 100 times, that is false. Rumors that have become factual. And Mr. Seleka may be caught in that crossfire for behaving innocently. I think it's not, I think the problem is me.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, for example, some of the things you raise about certain emails or invoices or whatever, some of the issues you point out, maybe in an affidavit, you deal with them in a certain way, but in a consultation, if you are asked and you deal with them, it may be apparent that, no, this one needs further investigation before it goes to a hearing or that kind of thing. So I'm simply saying, I don't know whether that does happen. Maybe it doesn't happen. And
Chair,
it might help.
It hasn't happened, and that's for the better, Chair. I think we are better off now.
Okay, all right. Okay.
The practice, that's the general practice.
Yes.
That hasn't happened in respect of Mr. Koko.
Yes. It would help, I think, as I say, there would be no problem if his counsel is there as well. There would be no problem. It would help because ahead of the hearing, the legal team would know exactly what he has to say about certain things, and it would be able to say, okay, no, this will need to be investigated further before it goes to the hearing, because, for example, he may be having a point that hasn't been picked up, and so on and so on.
Yes.
So, if there is still room to do it, that might help.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yes.
I say we are at 4 o'clock. Let's take an adjournment, or do you want to close, so to ask one or two before we, or we can adjourn and then,
Yes, let's finish off because but
well,
Mr. Koko might be
are you going to talk about finishing off a topic or?
a topic that I know you
My
might.
counsel gave me a instruction and learning on how to answer you so that you can move quickly.
Okay, all right. No, I think let's take an adjournment, but let's talk about the way forward. We'll take an adjournment and come back. How far are we from reaching a point where, subject to issues that might still have to be investigated in terms of your planning, how far are we from reaching a point where you would be done with Mr. Koko?
Yeah.
Is it another day? Is it half a day? Is it X number of hours, or is it?
Yeah. So I wish I could give you a
I
direct.
know that it's not entirely in your control.
Yeah, I thought I was struggling with Mr. Motepu, but Mr. Koko is on the other side.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to try to help you.
You're going to help.
It's very important to
Yeah.
you finish. I'm going to try to help you.
So, I mean, if you look at the issues we have to cover, Chair, if we finish McKinsey now, we'll be left with Tegeta issues, which are also quite extensive.
Yeah.
And we will have to touch on the travel agent evidence as well.
Well,
Yeah. So I'm thinking, Mr. Koko helping me.
Can we finish at least Tegeta today?
well, it might not be unreasonable to say Tegeta not more than 3 hours, or is that?
No, that's too short.
That's too short.
Well,
Or
that's-
not more than
that's
4
short.
hours. Okay, but certainly for you to finish,
Yes.
we would not need more than a day.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's at the most a day, but it could be less.
yes.
Let me ask Mr. Berry, in terms of your own assessment, when you come to re-examination, what's your estimate at the moment of how much time you might need?
We would estimate 5 hours.
Sorry,
We will
about
try
5
to
hours.
take measures, we estimate 5 hours. We will try to take measures in terms of preparation of documentation to try and shorten that if it's possible.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
But yes, it will
Okay.
take, unfortunately, I think it's day 6 or 7
Yeah.
that Mr. Koko's here, so there's quite a bit of terrain that we will have
Yeah.
to cover,
No,
and
that gives me an idea.
as you please.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I think we'll adjourn now and then we'll come back. But this evening, I would like us to not to go beyond 6. That's point 1. Point 2, tomorrow and Thursday are set aside for a certain witness, and I'm told that there might be challenges. Now, I mentioned that only in the event that everybody says we can use tomorrow or part of tomorrow or Thursday or part of Thursday, if that other witness, those challenges don't, if those challenges materialize. But I think Mr. Berry indicates that there would be a problem of availability, and I understand because it's short notice. So it was simply a question of just in case. So if
Chair,
it, if
Chair,
it
I'm
was,
so sorry, but my time is spoken for.
no, that's fine. That's fair enough. No, that's fair enough. But what I think I would like us to do, maybe when we adjourn, is to see whether we can identify some evening sessions that we can look at, maybe next week or as soon as possible, because maybe weekdays might be problematic. But we can talk at the time. We can talk at the time and see what is possible and what is not possible. Okay, let's take tea adjournment.
Yeah.
We'll resume at 20 past.
Chair, just
Four.
before that, may I indicate to the chairperson, I managed to speak to Ms. Van Rooyen and the RT expert. They were not able to come at lunchtime. They will come at 4:30.
At 4:30.
4:30, yes.
Okay. Well, I think maybe they can hear us. They can hear us. I don't know how much time that discussion would need. I mean, at least if they had said 4:00, because that's when we take an adjournment. They'll have to wait a bit. Maybe we'll take an adjournment after, because now if we go up to 4:00, that's too long, an adjournment. So they'll just have to wait. So that then that discussion can take place. We can take a 10 minutes break later on. Maybe I should just say, let's say we'll take a 10 minutes break at 5. So maybe they can hear me. So they don't have to come immediately. They can be in touch with one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just not.
Okay, right. Let's take 10 minutes adjournment.
Thank you.
Okay, let's continue.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Mr. Koko. You've taken us through those documents. What I wanted to say in regard to the documents is that, and particularly the transaction, the MSA, is that from the evidence, one sees that there were various role players at any given moment, including the steering committee, which would have had some oversight role to play in regard to the services that are granted. I mean, services, yes, that are rendered under this MSA. So once the writing is on the wall, to borrow from your phrase, all those who are in the steering committee should take, and I want you to comment on this, should they not take the responsibility to put brakes on this? Because the agreement lacks the necessary Treasury approval. Why should we carry on with it? Because it's only terminated in June 2016, which is said to have been concluded in January 2016. And there is this 1.6 billion rand that gets to be paid. I know that you are addressing the last payment, which is 460, but there were payments prior to that that were made. And the question is, this steering committee, which seems to have been the interface between Eskom, or let me say the eyes and ears of Eskom. The question is, why didn't it do or take steps necessary to safeguard the interests of Eskom?
Chairman, the steering committee took steps. There's no doubt about that. The only thing that you may fault the steering committee of having done is to agree on, is to terminate and agree on a period of, I think, 6 months. That's what they've agreed on. I actually don't think that.
Sorry, that's what they've
agreed on.
They say they terminated the agreement on 6 months' notice.
I think there was a transition. I don't think it was immediate.
No, the termination was with immediate effect, according to the letter of June 2016. But the transition, Mr. Anoj Singh spoke about that. Whether it's a transition or whatever it is.
Yeah, Chair, now remember, you're talking to somebody who does not have personal knowledge to it.
Yeah.
So please take my answer. My understanding from where I was is that there was a transition,
a period of about 6 months.
Yes.
After Eskom had given
The
and
termination.
told them that they were terminating.
Yes. That's one thing. The second thing that I think has disappeared, and that's because I think we are now, and it's in hindsight, and we're throwing the baby with the bath. About 2-3 weeks ago, I had the time to listen to Dr. Alexander Weiss. Chairman, if anybody tells you, and I've heard that evidence, that there was no value created, he's lying to you. He is lying to you. And I will be the first one to defend that the men and women of Mackenzie and Eskom created value out of Mackenzie. I think at one point they valued it at about 24 billion rands. Now, it's a value I agree with. The value that Mackenzie and Eskom engineers added in that short space of time amounted to, the way I would put it, I would not put it at 24 billion rand. I would say it was a lot. I would not put it to 24 billion rands. But I have no doubt, and I manage generation, and Chairman, what I've not given you, you will find it in MMK 47. It's an affidavit of a senior general manager who in my area of business was responsible for McKinsey. And he again says, I was the main person responsible. Mr. Koko was not responsible for this. But the value at Majuba, that was the case study at Eskom, it's in billions. So I would not agree with anybody who says, and I've heard that, who says the McKinsey Eskom team did not add value under the MSA. I would not agree with that. I think that's a different discussion. I am 100% behind the team, Anosh, Mr. Mabilani, preach on the work that they've done. The values. We stopped load shedding, Chairman. I mean, I heard you, and this is one thing I thought I would find an opportunity to talk to you about. Let's say state capture destroyed Eskom. You have no evidence to suggest that. If you look at the Eskom graph of performance, you can't argue that because of state capture, Eskom performance collapsed. To the contrary, you can argue that because Mr. Mulife, myself, and others were fired, Eskom performance collapsed. So you have you're going to struggle, and you're going to set yourself up to suggest that.
Mr. Koko, you've said that a number of
I'm
times.
I'm going to say 20 times. It's very important. But
No,
all what I'm saying to
I've
you
noted
is,
it.
all what I'm saying to you,
Repeat it. I've noted it.
Okay. All what I'm saying
have
to you-
made,
all I'm-
and it's quite in order for you to make the point, namely, when during the time when you were there, Mr. Bramlef was there, and whoever, or during the time that you were there, when you talk about yourself alone,
Yes.
it's quite in order for you to say, if you say, because of this and that, there was poor performance or performance declined, that's not true, because during my time, this is the performance that I can back up. This is the performance that is known. Or during the time when it is said that state capture had occurred at Eskom, the irony is that the performance was good. You are entitled
Yes.
to make that point.
Yes.
So all I was simply saying is, I've noted the point.
I've made
Yeah.
this point, but just to be direct to Mr. Seleka,
Yeah.
I think the termination was done at the right time. And I may be wrong, and I may be wrong, or you may not be happy with the answer. But I thought that the transition made sense, given the value of work that was done.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Well, I am talking about that in relation to your evidence to the chairperson that by February, March, the writing was on the wall. But the termination only takes place in June 2016. There's that time lapse, which is a significant amount of time from February, March to June 2016. And during that time, even thereafter, the steering committee continues to meet.
Yeah, but Chair, I think the delegations of authority is to the project manager, it's not to the steering committee. Delegations of authority are very clear. The main role of the steering committee was performance. That was the main role. But all the executives that are there, and I think there were 10, at one point that room was always full. There will be about 15 of us there. All of us are wearing our own, I'm wearing the generation technology hat, and I'm looking at that head. Somebody's looking at the transmission head, is looking at that. Doesn't have the overall. The overall picture is for the project for the project manager. I'm not sure if I would agree with you there, Mr. Seleka. I would not agree with you. It looks like especially to be exact, especially when,
Face to the
yes,
chairperson.
Chair, especially when Mackenzie came back to us with a letter, and I speak under the correction, that letter must have been around the last week of March, 28th, 30 March.
What letter?
The letter of where Mackenzie said we've done a due diligence and we don't support, we will not do business with Mackenzie. I think that was around
30 March.
With Trillion, you mean?
with Trillion, yes.
Yeah.
I think it must have been, to be exact, it's probably 29th of March, if I can be, if I can.
Yes, around there.
Yes, and that's the time that really you can put on focus and say between the 29th of March to the date when it was cancelled, I don't remember, maybe we took long. I can only say that where it became very obvious that we really have to terminate is when we got that letter from Mackenzie on the 29th of March. Because then, like I said, the right to repeat myself, Chair, without being nonsensical, is that the writing on the wall was there around February when it became obvious that we don't have National Treasury support, and the letter of the 30th of March 2016, I think that would have killed the cat.
Yes, but that letter is completely unrelated to the requirement for National Treasury.
Most certainly. Most certainly.
So what I'm saying to you is it cannot be linked to Eskom. When Eskom becomes aware we don't have National Treasury approval,
Chair, I will not quibble with that. I think that's right, except that all what I'm simply saying is that the letter of the 30th or 29th of March 2016 just compounds the problem.
but why does it compound? Because McKinsey is free to subcontract whoever.
And I was with them on that side, because from day one we should not be telling Mackenzie, go there. We should not be telling them, except that now we're having so much work, so much value generated without complying to the 30% from the board, and there's no end in sight. Now we have to go back to the board and say, you gave us an authority in at least in October 2015 to contract with this gentleman and subcontract 50%. We are now in March and we still have not done that. It just creates more compliance issues.
Okay, I didn't want to
Look, I'm not going to argue. The two are not linked.
Yes, okay.
That's not what I'm.
Okay.
That's not what I'm arguing.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
simply saying we're now getting into more compliance issues.
Yeah.
So now somebody has to go to the board and say, in October 2015, you said I must comply with this guy, and that's an overnight compliance. Now I'm sitting in March, and I've not met one of your conditions precedent. I think that was a condition precedent. It was not a gatekeeper. That's the terms we use. One was a gatekeeper, and one was a conditions precedent.
Okay. You have taken the chairperson to the 460 million rand payment. How you refused to sign that memo. As the acting CEO, and becoming aware that this payment has been made. So now you're the most senior executive. Any steps you took
No.
in regard to your subordinates?
No, Chair.
Okay.
No, Chair. I became aware of the payment to Trillion when I was on suspension. Second form of suspension. I read it on the newspaper. In fact, I fielded questions. One of the questions that I got from our then communication specialist, that you've paid Trillion money, and I responded overnight. I said, never. We've never paid Trillion money, we don't have a contract with Trillion. It turned out to be an embarrassment. It turned out to be a lie and embarrassed the minister because Eskom said, and in that case, Eskom was me. It was me, I was the CE then. I said, nobody can tell me I've paid McKinsey Trillion. I have no contract with Trillion, I have not paid Trillion. And only when I was on suspension that I realized we've paid Trillion. And it was big embarrassment because our initial response was that we've never paid. And the factual evidence actually came out to say we have paid. So I never had the opportunity to remedy the work. In fact, I never returned to work. I eventually resigned.
I'm sorry, so when you saw that in the newspapers would have been in 2017 sometime? Or?
2017, that would have been 2017.
Yes, around which month? March?
Chair, I am going to get, I don't want to get into trouble, but it would have been after the 15th of May.
Okay.
It would have been after the 15th of May.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yes, Mr. Saleh.
Thank you.
And the reason I'm saying 15th of May is because I was suspended on the 15th of May.
Yes.
Or rather, I took special leave on the 15th of May.
Yeah.
So I was already at home.
Okay.
So I'm just using the date.
No, that's fine.
But Mr. Koko, that memo you gave us did tell you the payments that had been made prior to that 460 million rand. So on the first page of the memo, not the covering note, paragraph 2 stated, following the negotiation process and board tender committee approval, MSA terminated in July 2016 an amount of 937,630 paid to date on the settlement.
Yes.
So
I just mentioned, Mr. Selega, something that highlights the point that I made earlier on about arrangements to be made ahead of the hearing.
oh yes,
Because whoever reads the transcript,
yes,
now when they read, they hear you refer to this memo. The memo doesn't have an exhibit number. It's not said in what bundle it is, on what page it is to be found. They'll be struggling. Whereas if we do it the way I suggested,
that's right.
no document will be referred to before it is in a bundle and can be located in the bundles. Yeah. So we can continue, but I'm just illustrating the point that when somebody reads the transcript, they want to look at this memo, they'll struggle because nobody says in which bundle it is.
Correct.
Yeah. But going forward, I think we'll try and do it that way.
Let me, for the record, use it as it is contained in Eskom Bundle 15, bracket A, page 363. Is the same memo dated 17 February 2017, marked MMK 35.
Yes, in that event, it may well be that this one that has got the covering note,
Yes.
because I understood you to say that one doesn't have a covering note.
Correct.
It may well be that it will be appropriate to slot it immediately after that one, and then find the right pagination that will, so they are together.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, please continue.
Chair, to answer Mr. Silika's number issue, on the same memo, the first page of the memo, 2B, that's what you read.
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing there. I don't see anything wrong there. I don't think anything wrong being paid to Mackenzie.
No, we are dealing with, what you are saying is when you became aware of payments to,
Trillion.
you say to Trillion, but I'm talking payments under the master services
Oh,
agreement.
no, I quite frankly had no problem with that. And I'll tell you what, Chair. We have a, if you read 1023 document, contracts are entered into irregularly, but they bind Eskom.
But can I, sorry, Mr. Cook. Because the question is whether you became aware of this, that the payment was made under the master service agreement upon receipt of this document.
Yes, this document is clear, so I knew about that.
That's all I want to know.
No, hang on.
But-
You might be talking at cross purposes.
Yes, I think we are.
He is asking whether at the time you received this memo, you became aware of the payment.
And my answer is yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. So did you receive it? You received it on the, when did you receive it?
23rd of February.
23rd. Okay, no, that's fine.
Yes.
And just for the record, Chair, there is nothing, there would be nothing wrong in McKinsey being paid the money they said to have been paid, for as long as they've done the job.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong.
And it's at the right rate.
It's a right rate.
Yeah.
The answer I thought I was answering when I even gave you the date of when I was on special leave was the payment 2 trillion.
2 trillion, yeah,
Yes.
okay. No, that's fine.
Yes, okay. The other one is a legal point, which I don't want to trouble you with, which is you are saying you don't see a problem payment to McKinsey. Is that notwithstanding that the agreement would not in fact have come into force because of lack or the want of Treasury approval?
No, not at
Not at that level.
not that. No. Remember that McKinsey was on the job. At a point in time, it had a contract that we were working on. We know now that
The contract was without Treasury approval.
we know that now. But at that point, all documentations, including the email we're referring to, where Mr. Seleke must refer you to, he's got it in his bundle. I saw it on his bundle 14, I think, from Soli Chitangano.
What is that?
Don't speak away from the mic.
The email from Mr. Solis Chitangano, who was then the Chief Procurement Officer in the Treasury Department, writing to Mr. Dave Gorey. And that it is that email that was interpreted to be the authority to sign, to put the contract into effect.
To be the approval of Treasury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So everybody on these discussions, when they talk about National Treasury, you will see they will always tell you, refer to that email, which I only had sight of during this process. But I heard of it, I knew about it, but I had not.
But I think Mr. Selega may be asking the question as of now, when you say you don't have a problem with
No.
whether, as you speak now, you still say you have no problem, or you are saying at that time you would not have had a problem.
No, Chair. No, Chair. I think I need to explain myself properly.
Yeah.
Before you answer, let me clarify the chairperson's
Oh,
question.
yes, yeah.
Because, Chair, I'm saying to you, Mr. Cook, even then, because if the writing was on the wall in February, March 2016, this letter comes to you in February of the following year, which is 2017,
Yeah.
when you would have had a full year of knowing that, but we have a problem with this contract.
Yes. And Chair, there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with
the payment.
the payment, right?
With the payment of a contract that is defective. There is nothing wrong. And the Eskom processes are very clear. You've got a defective process, but you've committed Eskom. The supplier has done its job. You compensate the supplier for the work he's done. The defective part of the contract is a misconduct on Eskom side. You deal with your Eskom people.
Yes, so your answer is Eskom's approach was if the job has been done in circumstances where there was a contract which relevant people thought was in order at the time, and you are paying at the rate that's been agreed, that's in order. Any deviation from procedures that should have been followed is a matter to be dealt with separately, but as far as Eskom was concerned, would not have been a ground to withhold payment.
Yes.
That's what you are saying.
Exactly. And Chairman, it's not me saying that.
Yeah, you're saying that was
It's
Eskom's
Eskom policy.
approach. It's Eskom policy.
And this policy exists.
Yeah, okay.
And that I can send it before I go home.
You must make you must make sure that it's one of the documents.
You won't have to wait for years. Before I go home, I will send it to you. It's 10:34. I'll get you to the page.
Yeah. So you say that Eskom's policy was quite clear.
Yes.
If work has been done,
Yes.
there was a contract, and I mean, work was done work was done as required or to the satisfaction of Eskom, then payment must be done. And if payment is done at the right rate, that's fine with Eskom.
Yes.
That was company policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the policy further goes beyond that. It says there has to be consequences.
Or for any unprocedural steps.
Exactly. For putting Eskom in that position.
Okay.
There has to be you can't simply say there was a contract,
Yes.
work was done, the supplier is entitled, therefore I pay. In fact, the policy is very onerous. It says if you find yourself in that position, you can't decide to pay. You can't.
You must report yourself first.
You must report yourself first.
Yes.
Go and report yourself.
Yes.
And then
Somebody senior can take a
somebody
decision.
must say, you've committed conduct, but you've committed Eskom, we pay, but I'll deal with you.
Yeah.
The policy is very clear.
Yeah. No, that's
And
that's
that you'll
fine.
get today.
Yeah.
You won't have to wait or rush other people.
Yeah.
I signed that policy.
Yeah. So that's why you know it.
That's why I know. I signed it myself.
Mr.
Thank you, Chair. We've traversed the issue of whether or not this agreement was in fact concluded by the time it was terminated. So I will not go into it because I want to go into your knowledge of payments to Trillion. To Trillion, because it was under the MSA. Now let's zoom into the Trillion, which you were explaining to the chairperson. Chair, and for this reason, I would like us to turn to that submission document of 8 August 2016. It's in Eskom bundle 14, bracket C. I think it's the bundle in front of us. Page 829.25. Mr. Koko, you referred to this earlier. 829.25. It's a submission document motivating for the termination. 829.25. You're there. Thank you.
Point 25.
Yes, Chair. Submission document, executive summary, dated 8 August 2016.
Pardon me, I'm not sure which bundle we are.
Bundle 14, Mr. Barry.
14 bracket C.
14C. In your electronic.
Well, the electronic is not
In your electronic, it will just be
the page number. Just follow the page number.
829.25, bundle 14.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. So the document reads, paragraph 1, title of the submission, feedback on McKinsey, Top Consultants Program as MSA settlement process. 2, resolution required. The BTC notes the following. To date, the initiatives under the Top Consultants Program MSA have achieved more than 18.6 billion rand of annualized impact for Eskom. 2.2, applying the termination and settlement clause within the MSA, Eskom may need to pay up to 2.84 billion rand, inclusive of payment to the BEE partner, for the value achieved to date. The BTC approves the following.
Can I stop you there?
Yes, Chair.
On your approach, Mr. Koko, even this submission should not be making any reference to a BEE partner.
Yes, Chair,
In
except,
terms of payment.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Except you see how they, and this is one of the, if you look at the dates of the submissions, it's one of the submissions I gave you.
Yeah, okay.
That I had no party to it, I had no side to it.
Okay.
And if you look at the signatures are on 829.32.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to
Yes.
confirm.
Yes,
Yeah, Mr. You may continue, Mr.
That's
Slater.
indeed one of the points, Chair. And then BTC approves the following. An already negotiated lower settlement value of 1.8 billion rand, inclusive of payment to the BEE partner. And the 1.8 billion rand settlement negotiated will consist of an initial cash payment of 800 million rand to cover the utilization of the consultant's resources to date. Then we go to paragraph 2.7. Paragraph 2.7 reads, the Group Chief Executive, Group Chief Financial Officer, and Group Executive Generation and Technology are authorized to negotiate more favorable terms and conditions to the settlement process. Now, which one were you at that time in paragraph 2.7? There's 3 designations.
Group
there.
Executive Generation and Technology.
Generation. Did you negotiate favorable terms?
No, Chair, and this is this is the point I made earlier, that this is the first meeting where I am delegated. So when I write the note to Prish to say, who did the board, the BTC, delegate?
Who was delegated by the
Who was
BTC?
delegated? This is a delegation I'm talking to.
Yes, because you know what that delegation
Because
was.
I know the delegation, and I was in this meeting. I think I was in this meeting. Yes. I think I was in this meeting.
Sorry,
I was
yeah.
in this meeting.
But now, okay, that's the one point, Mr. Koko. The other point is, this meeting authorized payment to the BEE partner.
This payment authorized 1.8 billion to McKinsey. And you see, they put in bracket, including the BEE partner, but the payment is to the contracting party.
Yes, it's, I think, unlike the other memo.
Yes.
It's not to McKinsey and
Exactly.
BEE partner.
Exactly.
This is to McKinsey, including.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So the payment-
In other words, what they are saying is whatever may be due to the BEE partner is in this.
It's
this
in there.
amount.
So the
Yeah.
30% is in
Yeah.
there.
Whereas with the other submission that we were looking at earlier, where it said McKinsey and the BEE partner, it seems to me that that could be used by somebody who wants to pay the BEE
But
partner
that's what happened,
directly
Chair.
to say, but it was authorized.
But that's what happened, Chair.
Yeah, so whereas here,
That's
it says inclusive.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
I don't know whether Mr. Slega, you are on the same
I thought-
wavelength as I'm just articulating what I think the point is that Mr. Koko is making.
Yeah. Chair, at this point, I can tell you now, there was no doubt that the money is going to McKinsey.
The money?
The money is,
It's going to McKinsey.
oh, okay.
There was
No doubt.
no doubt.
Okay.
Remember,
Mr. Seleg, I'm sorry, Mr. Koko, hang on, Mr. Koko, he came in while I was waiting for your answer. Are we on the same wavelength?
Chair, I see the choice of words is because I know what subsequently happened.
Yes, yes, yeah. Obviously, I mean, if you think differently, you can pursue that. I was just wanting to indicate what my understanding is of the distinction that Mr. Kokos seeks to make, yeah.
Because it's curious in the first place, Mr. Koko, to even say we are paying McKinsey brackets inclusive of the BEE partner. And I don't even know whether they're saying they are paying McKinsey here. So if you read that paragraph 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, McKinsey is not mentioned. But inclusive of payment to the BEE, partner, is expressly mentioned.
Yes.
And the question is, if you wanted to pay the main contractor, why do you even bother to mention the subcontractor?
Yes.
Yeah, but Chair, Mr. Seleka wants me to own the document that doesn't belong to me.
No, I'm answering the chairperson's question.
No, I think what he's doing, he is saying you might not be the owner of the document and you might not have participated in it, but you are attaching a certain meaning or interpretation to a particular part of it, and he is questioning that meaning or interpretation that you attach.
Because I was there.
Remember that I was saying, I think
Yes.
this is the point you want to make.
Because I was there.
Yes.
I was in that meeting.
Yes.
I was in that meeting.
So in which case you are saying you are not just relying on what is written here, you are relying also on what transpired in the meeting.
Not only was I in the meeting, but I was the custodian of the policy in that meeting. I was the person to hold. I was the person in that meeting to hold the board stage to compliance.
Mr. Selega,
Yes.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
Chairman,
feel free to pursue it if you want to.
Yes, no, correction.
Mr. Koko, you wanted to say something?
Yes. I've said something that Mr. Seleka will come back and haunt me on. I was the custodian in 2015, not in 2016.
Okay, all right.
No, that's a wrong impression. That's a very wrong impression.
So, I always tell my counsel, Mr. Seleka looks for contradictions only when it matters to me. Other people can contradict themselves, it's fine.
Yeah,
But I just thought I must correct that, Chair. It's important issue of fact.
Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, how many days thereafter? On the 12th of August, payments were then made. 1 to Trillion and 2 to Trillion, 1 to McKinsey. The amounts are staggering. To McKinsey, over 680 million rand. To Trillion, 2 payments are made. One for over 113 million rand, and then 122 million rand. So this meeting and the committee, was it not aware of these payments being made after they were made?
No. And I don't see how they could have been aware. I just don't see, process-wise, I don't see how they could have been aware.
So does it mean that the BTC and the executives, which included you, would have made decisions and not ensure that whoever implements the decision come back to account, give a report how these payments were made? Because you see the other payment in December 2016, and ultimately the one that you have traversed of 460 million in February 2017. But confine yourself to the 2016 payments.
The answer is no, Chair. The Eskom procedure and delegations of authority does not expect the committee to come back to report to the BTC? The answer is not.
Yeah. Isn't,
No, did you say committee?
No,
back to the
Mr.
BTC?
Sileka says wasn't there supposed to be a feedback?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
answer is no.
Yes,
It's
yes,
not Eskom policy. Otherwise, Eskom will stop working.
yes, yes. Is that on the basis that
The volumes,
it's
yeah.
assumed that the decision of the BTC or board will be implemented?
Correct. And there's
if there is a problem, then they can come
Correct.
back.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
yes. But reporting back, why would it bring Eskom to a standstill?
Chairman,
Because all you do is print out a document, this is how we have paid, you send to BTC or the steering committee, it shows the payments date and who was paid.
yeah, Chair, that's how people have an impression of how things should happen. So let me give you a practical. Eskom spends close to 160 billion rands a year. That's 16 billion rand, that's over 16 billion rands a month. And you can take that to a daily amount. If all those payments could go back to the board will stop working.
Obviously, you would only take to the board amounts that are above a certain threshold. You wouldn't take to the board everything.
As Chair.
I mean, even with delegations, the
So,
board
so the
doesn't
assumption,
authorize everything.
the assumption you're making is that the delegation, the amount of payment of R1 billion are few in between.
Well, not necessarily. I'm simply saying, even with the delegations, in terms of authorization of amounts, if a transaction is not more than so much, somebody down there can approve it. If it's above a certain amount, somebody higher or a committee higher. If it's not everything comes to the CEO or EXCO, but once you're talking about amounts that are above a certain amount, then maybe that transaction must be approved by the board. So if one was talking of a situation where the board needs to get a report back, equally, it would have to be only in respect of transactions or payments that are
Yeah,
above.
very clear, very
Yeah,
clear. So,
yeah.
so you can't spend money that is not authorized. That's the first rule. Different procurement tender committees have got levels of authorization. So in this case, we're talking about the board tender committee. And the amount that is authorized at that level is 750 million rands. So in proceeding with your logic, you are suggesting that every transaction that is 750 million rands should report back that they've paid that amount.
Not should. Well, maybe he's suggesting that. I'm saying if there were to be a process in terms of which there should be a report back, responding to what you were saying, that every month it's, I don't know how many billions that are paid by Eskom, then if they had to get reports back on all of them. So all I was simply saying that logic would suggest that if there is to be a reporting back, it must be limited to certain amounts.
Yeah, Chairman, I can tell you now, and you can make that recommendation, and and I may be biased, and normally a person who has so much hands-on experience is not a person to rely on because he's got a skin in the game. So
Yes, but what
I just don't think that it's going to be practical.
But are you saying that even if the report back to a body such as the BTC or the board was limited to payments of certain amounts, that would not be practical?
Chairman,
Or are you
it
saying-
won't be practical. The volume of work going through BTC, it's in my view, it's just too much.
too much.
The way it's been managed now, and it's not as if it's not been managed.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a what we call assurance and forensics.
Yeah.
That do audits on projects and the money spent, looking for all these compliance issues. So the money that gets paid, there's a full-time team of people on a daily basis looking for these payments.
No, I think from my side, I can understand a situation where the arrangement is you don't need to come back to us to say that this has
You've paid.
been done.
Yes.
This payment has been done.
Yes.
You need to come back to us if there is a problem.
That's how it is now.
Yeah, I can understand that situation.
That's how it is.
You might trust your executives and whoever else.
That's how it is.
If
actually.
you have said this is fine, they will implement.
Yes.
But if they meet with problems in trying to implement, then they can come back.
Oh, they have to.
Yeah.
No, they have to. That's how it works. That's
Yes.
how it is right now as we speak.
Yeah. Okay. All
That's
right.
how it is as we speak. The way you've just articulated it.
Yeah.
That's how it is at Eskom
Yeah.
as we speak.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Mr. Selega.
Thank you. Chair, Mr. Koko, so are you leaving the chairperson with a message that these payments, these authorized payments that ultimately went up to 1.6 billion, would have been made without the BTC knowing that payments were made separately, one to McKinsey, one to Trillion, whenever they were made?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying.
And that those who negotiated or were authorized to negotiate, you say it didn't happen, would also have not known that this is how these payments were made.
The people who negotiate the contracts are not necessarily the people who manages the contract. The project manager will know. And that's how the procedure works, 321034. No one else will know unless he's told. But again, it is that procedure, Chair, and he says he's got accounts payable policy. And I've also referred you to managing contract in SEP. There is no way that if you are not in that chain that you will know. There is no way that the CEO of Eskom will know. There is no way. There is no way that even the MD or the group executive will know. No, the project team will know. And that is why we have to hold them accountable. That is why we have to make sure that they are properly trained, that the right people are managed. I mean, take Medupi and Kusile, for example. Kusile alone is costing 140 billion rands. When I've got to know that there's serious corruption happening there, I could not even prove it myself. I hear people on the street. I had to ask people, just go check this thing. I could not know. But the project manager on site, whose assets have been, what's the term, Mr. Barry?
Looted.
No. What's the term when the asset forfeiture unit freezes your assets?
Seizure.
Or have been seized.
Yes, and that's Mark. My Makelwane's assets has been seized today. And
The one
that's-
you were tied with.
Come again?
The one you were tied
I
with.
feel sad. But the point, I'm throwing this in, Chair, because I've given Mr. Seleke the audio visuals of the meeting of 2 March 2017. That's where we had a fallout. Listen to those audios. Listen to them. And Ms. Daniels came here and told you that the board took a decision to suspend Mr. Koko. I've given to you the audio. She was lying to you. The board was simply saying, we have an anonymous report from Mark that says Mr. Koko is corrupt. Go talk to him. And Mr. Koko is going to suspend. And by the way, the people I was suspending have got their assets today frozen. And yet I was being suspended for that. And all what I did to Mr. Ngubane says, Mr. Ngubane, your board is protecting corruption. And if you suspend me, you're going to go down with them. But that's,
Yes.
I've given it to Mr. Seleka. But
Yes.
the point I'm making is, Chair, is that the way the Eskom processes and procedures are wired, it will be unreasonable for you to expect the board of Eskom then to have known that $1 was being paid. It would be extremely unreasonable.
Obviously, if they authorized the payment of trillion in circumstances where they should not, that's a different matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Salaga?
Chair, the IT experts are here.
Oh, yeah, I see it's 10 past,
Yes.
12 minutes past.
Sure.
I can take, I take it that 10 minutes should do
Yes.
for the purposes of this discussion. If you need more than 10 minutes, then another arrangement would have to be made,
Yes.
which may include meeting virtually everyone concerned to discuss.
Yes.
But I obviously would like a report back in due course to say this was the outcome of the discussion. So I just say again that the purpose really is for Mr. Koko, in the presence of his legal team and yourselves, and the specialist, and has Ms. Sharon Van Rooyen also arrived?
Well, I understood that she's in meetings, so she may not be
Okay.
available.
Okay, I think there is somebody else, that's
Yes.
fine. The purpose is for Mr. Koko to indicate to the investigators and to the specialists, to the experts, exactly what he talked about earlier, which he said should be looked at in terms of the computer,
Yes.
his own computer, that of
Ms. Daniels.
Ms. Daniels, I can't remember who else, but everyone, and what he's talking about that they would be looking for, and they would be able to say, we have looked for that, we didn't find it, or it won't be possible because of A, B, C, D, or it will be possible, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Or basically that's the purpose, because I want to make sure that we don't have a situation where something hasn't been looked at that should be looked at. Yeah. So let me take, let's take a 10 minutes break, then it's 15:15 now, let's say 20 past. If within the time, when I have to come back, you are not done, then arrangements can be made for you to meet. I mean, at 6 o'clock we will adjourn today.
Yes.
That might be another opportunity, or an arrangement can be made for the meeting to continue at another time, either virtually or physically.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will have to be until 25 past.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's make it 15 minutes. Let's say
Okay.
past.
Okay.
So okay.
Thank you.
We adjourn. Okay, let's continue.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think we will give the chairperson report back in due course
Yes,
because we've taken the first step.
okay, yes,
And we need the second step,
yeah,
and then we can give you some feedback
okay.
and take it from there.
No, that's fine, as long as that's dealt with the agency that
Yes,
it deserves, yeah.
yes, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
We're going to adjourn at 6,
Yeah.
as Chairperson indicated. Maybe we should quickly deal with the issue of the travel agent.
Okay. You don't want to continue with what you were, or you are done with the topic you are dealing with
I've come to
at a certain point?
what I think is the end of the McKinsey trillion.
Okay, okay.
But I know Mr. Koko is coming back, so I didn't want to completely shut the door.
Yeah, you are not closing it, but at this stage you think that there might not be anything further, but there might be.
Correct, Chair.
Okay, all right.
Correct, Chair.
Okay, let's go through that, and then next time you can see if there's anything outstanding on McKinsey.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we will go into the bigger
Yeah.
one to get our
Yeah.
issues.
Okay.
So that will take us to Eskom Bundle 18.
Okay.
18.
The documents that were handed up, we don't really have to keep them because they will be put in a file. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair.
Mr.
That's
Bell,
correct,
you-
Chair. That's
that will be done.
that's
Yeah.
what I-
Okay.
18A,
Bundle 18.
18, just 18 bracket B. Just help.
Yeah. Do you need help? Somebody must help Mr. Koko.
yes, got it.
The specific page relevant to Mr. Koko is 1565.7.
What's the page number?
1565.7.
1565.7.
Mr. Koko, this,
I don't forget to arrange for these witnesses from Travel Excellence to come and give oral evidence.
yes, Chair.
Yeah,
I have in fact mentioned that already to them.
yeah.
Mr. Koko, the affidavit starts on page 1565.1. That's the affidavit of Ms. Samira Suleiman, an adult female employed as a travel agent working at Double Excellence Trading as Travel Excellence, which is paragraph 1 of the affidavit. The next page, page 1565.2, she gives the background to my relationship with Miss Halima Alana. Paragraph 4, both I and Miss Halima Alana have been working in the travel industry for the last 30 years. At a point in time, both I and Miss Alana worked together at a travel agency called Shore Freeway Travel. I later went on to join a travel agency named Harvey World Travel, and Miss Alana left to start up her own travel agency. Background to Travel Excellence, paragraph 6. Travel Excellence is a travel agency which was founded during 2013 by Miss Alana. The company is solely owned by Miss Alana's father. And the name is given, Mr. Sharif Hussein Alana, who is a director and effectively a silent partner. Due to the nature of the company, no startup funding was required. Travel Excellence specializes in the arrangement of flights, hotel accommodation, transfers, visas, tours, and travel insurance around the world. Travel Excellence does not have its own license with the International Air Transport Association. Thus, we made use of licensed operators. We used Serendipity Tours CC or a consortium of travel agencies to make our bookings. The fact that we do not have an IATA license means that we cannot issue our own airline tickets. We are able.
Mr. Selega, why are you reading all of that?
Yes, I was going to ask the chairperson
Mr. Koko has read
to move
that.
on.
I have read that.
Yes. Thank
So
you,
I
Chair.
think go to the real issues.
Thank you, Chair.
Chairman, before we do that, there is a confirmatory affidavit of Ms. Halana
Yes.
on this affidavit. Which page is that?
The
That must be
confirmatory.
immediately after this one, I think. Or was it
Yes.
before?
Let me see.
It's at page 1575.
Yes, 1575.
Chair, just a housekeeping issue. The confirmatory affidavit was signed on the 17th of March, 2021.
Yes.
And the affidavit of Ms. Suleiman was signed on the 17th of March, 2021. Page 1565.3 has got changes that were done on the 23rd of March, 2021.
Is that paragraph 14?
Paragraph
1565.3. What paragraph?
paragraph 14.
14.
Yes.
Okay.
It is not my understanding.
Oh, okay. Oh, you say those handwritten.
Yeah, I know. Changes or annotations.
Or is it because of this SAPS stamp at the top? Is it that stamp, that the date of that stamp, that makes you think that this amendment was made on that date,
I can
on
only,
23?
I can only make the conclusion.
Yes, okay.
And
Okay.
And in that case, those changes
We're not,
were not confirmed by
yes,
Ms. Alana.
yeah.
And I'm inclined to ask for the affidavit
Yeah,
that was confirmed by Ms. Alana.
Just repeat that. Just repeat that.
I am inclined to ask for the affidavit that was confirmed by Ms. Alana on the 17th of March 2021. Chair, there's a reason I'm getting to this.
Yes, no, obviously I want to understand that. Yes. Just elaborate. If Ms. Suleiman's affidavit was deposed to and signed by Ms. Suleiman after the 17th of March 2021, I could understand the point that says Miss, is it Halima, could not have confirmed that affidavit because it didn't exist. If you say, because of the amendments to which you have drawn my attention, and Miss Halima could not have confirmed this affidavit because it didn't exist, I would say there's a difficulty with that because they are on the same date. But if you say Miss Halima did not and could not have confirmed that amendment because it was made after, that also I understand.
That's my point, Chair.
No, that I understand. If it's about the amendment, I understand the point.
It's about the amendment.
Yeah, no, I understand that point.
And I am saying he confirmed an affidavit that existed on the 17th of March 2021.
Yeah.
And
you are saying that she has not confirmed the amendment.
she has not confirmed the amendment.
Yeah, no, that I do understand.
And it's material, Chair, and we will get to that because
Yeah.
I want to see what she actually confirmed.
Sorry?
I want to see in particular what she actually confirmed.
Yes. Well, on the face of it,
The-
I'm taking it, but it's not conclusive. I'm taking it that she confirmed this affidavit without the amendment.
Correct.
Yes. So what would be required is for
The affidavit.
her to be shown the affidavit after it has been amended, and for her to say whether she confirms that by way of another affidavit, whether she confirms that or not. So that would be what is required, because she might say, well, I confirm that when I saw this affidavit and signed my confirmatory affidavit, this amendment was not there, or whatever she says. But if she can then say whether with the amendment being there, is it true, is it correct, she can then say that.
Yeah, Chair, we're going to come back to this
Yeah,
because this is the weaknesses. So when I started
yeah,
at the beginning, I said to you, there has to be consequences to witnesses who come here for the purpose of directing you away from the truth.
no, there's no problem.
I'm
To
going
the
to-
extent that you
yes,
want to come back to it,
Yes, I'm going
you
to
have
follow.
to do that.
I'm going to follow the tune of Mr. Seleke.
Yeah, please
let-
don't lower your voice
I'm
because,
going to follow the tune of Mr. Seleke
yeah,
and let him conclude his trend.
yeah,
And then I will come and show you
yeah,
the falsehood of both Ms. Alana
yes,
and Ms. Suleiman.
yeah,
And then I'm going to ask you, Chair, that there has to be consequences. This
Yeah,
cannot continue like this.
yeah.
It damages people's reputation. It destroys people completely. Tomorrow's headlines, Salim Issa paid for cocoa strips.
No,
Becomes
no,
headlines.
that's
damaging.
an important point. But as Mr. Selega asks questions, if there is anything that you want to say as you respond to his questions that substantiates the point you make about this being false, feel free to do that, even if you will come back later.
No, certainly,
Yeah.
Chair.
Okay,
Certainly, Chair. I've watched
Yeah.
Zondo on TV too much to know what you expect.
Mr. Selega?
Thank you, Chair. So, Mr. Koko, let's go to where the affidavit deals with you. By the way, Chair, I should say, Mr. Koko, in response to this preliminary aspect, the original affidavit prior to amendment was forwarded to your attorneys. I think they did, pursuant to that, ask whether we could give the affidavit that Ms. Samira
Okay.
Suleiman says she deposed or submitted to the Hawks.
Okay, so my attorneys have it.
Yes.
Okay.
So the change there, Chair, she's correcting that she was the one who submitted. She changes it to say it was Ms. Alana who submitted the affidavit to the Hawks.
So I have provided the investigators of the commission with the documents I still have in my possession, including documentations attached to a previous affidavit that I submitted to the Hawks.
Yes, that's what she had said.
Yes, and that's what Ms. Alana confirmed, that Ms. Suleiman...
No, sorry, no. Remember, Ms. Alana confirms the affidavit only insofar as it refers to her. So the original affidavit didn't have Ms. Alana as the person who submitted. It had Ms. Suleiman saying, I submitted to the Hawks.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yes.
Yes, so Ms. Suleiman wrote an affidavit that says she submitted an affidavit to the Hawks, which she did not do. And
Well, I was just
Chair,
looking at this.
this is not material.
No, but that's fine. But as you were talking, both of you, I was looking at this sentence. She says, I've provided the investigators of the commission with the documents I still have in my possession, including documentation attached to a previous affidavit submitted to the Hawks. Now, a previous affidavit submitted to the Hawks, okay, now I maybe I understand what she, okay. You see, the amendment that she has made seeks to make it clear that she is talking about a previous affidavit submitted to the Hawks by Ms. Alana. After the amendment, that is what comes. That's how I understand it.
Yes, sure.
But without the amendment, it seems to me, at least initially, I thought that the reference to a previous affidavit submitted to the Hawks might not necessarily have meant an affidavit, a previous affidavit submitted to the Hawks by her. But on reflection, I see that because of what she says earlier in the sentence, namely, I have provided the investigators of the commission with the documents I still have. Okay, well, maybe
no.
without the amendment, it might still have.
Chairman, without the amendment, it's very clear. She submitted an affidavit to the Hawks without the amendment. So
Yeah.
I submitted to the Hawks.
Yeah, well, there is, first she says she provided the investigators of the commission with the documents that she still had in her possession.
And AP
And then if you stop there, then this problem about the Hawks doesn't arise.
Yes.
But then she continues, including documentation. She is now talking about, she's saying the documents she submitted to the investigators of the commission included documentation attached to a previous affidavit submitted to the Hawks. Now, I was saying maybe that's wide enough to say it doesn't necessarily mean submitted by her, but I was saying, well, maybe on balance, it means submitted by her. But maybe for now, we don't need to exhaust it.
Chair, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Either she submitted an affidavit,
Yeah.
or Ms. Alana submitted the affidavit.
Yeah.
The changes,
Make it clear.
the changes simply says
Yeah.
Ms. Alana
Submitted.
submitted. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to proceed with that.
Yeah.
But before Mr. Selika goes to the paragraph she wants to go to, I want to refer you to paragraph 17. Paragraph 17 says, at Travel Excellence, I usually dealt with Mr. Essa directly. I do not believe Ms. Alana ever dealt with him directly. And that's the, and Ms. Alana confirms that she's never dealt with Mr. Salim Essa directly. But she deposes of an affidavit. She having not dealt directly with Mr. Essa, she thinks she's competent and has knowledge to depose an affidavit to the Hawks that says Mr. Salim Essa paid for Mr. Koko for a trip to Dubai. I find that eye-browsing, but I don't want to go into the details.
Yeah,
as you get into the, you'll see these things build up and it's going to pop up.
Yeah.
Because
That's fine. Yeah.
these people are. This one, let's leave it there.
No, that's fine.
All I'm simply saying is that she confirms that she's not had direct dealings with Mr. Essa, but she deemed it proper that not Ms. Suleiman, but her deposes an affidavit to the Hawks dealing with Mr. Essa and Mr. Koko. So let's carry on, Chair.
Well, of course, on that approach, submitted to the Hawks is understood to be Ms. Halima, means Ms. Halima submitted to the Hawks an affidavit deposed to by her. It's just that once they come here, we can hear more, we can have clarification.
There's enough details to interact.
And maybe you know enough. I'm always the last one to know.
There's enough detail to I said I will listen to Mr. Seleka and then we'll come back, but you said I must raise these things as I
No, yes.
you
will do that. You see, you need also to, in regard to these, in regard to everybody, supply Mr. Selega with as much, shall we call it, ammunition in quotes for what it's worth, for him to be able to question the witnesses in regard to what your version is before they're allowed to leave. So, and if you give him all the information that you have, you empower him to question them in terms of your version as well.
Thank you, Chair. Chair,
I see that it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes to 6 o'clock.
Yeah, but
Chair,
let
can we
me,
finish this part
let me
before we
draw-
go, please?
Let me hear Mr. Selega first, yeah.
let me just draw this to the chairperson's attention so that if we adjourn, at least the chair, you have
Can we
this in
finish this
mind.
before we adjourn?
Page,
Hang on, Mr. Koko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the affidavit that Ms. Halima Alana submitted to the Hawks, we have it in the bundle. It's page 1287. Now, I'm listening to Mr. Koko saying, in regard to the statement where Ms. Suleiman is saying, I do not believe that
Yeah.
Alana had direct contact with Salim Essa, Mr. Salim Essa. That he seeks to make an issue of
Yeah,
it.
he says, but she's contradicting herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure whether that's correct, because if you look at the affidavit Ms. Alana made to the Hawks, she doesn't claim to have dealt directly with Mr. Salim Essa. You can see that she writes the affidavit purely based on what she says,
Please take me to the statement. What's the number?
page 1287,
Okay, let's
the
go
same
there.
bundle.
Okay, let's go there. Now,
1287.
1287.
Where she says, I do hereby confirm that Travel Excellence has travel records for Anod Singh and Matshela Moses Koko.
1287.
Yes.
And on the face of it, she seems to testify
Based on the records.
based on the records.
Okay.
The person who claims to,
You have personal knowledge.
I shouldn't say claim, the
Yeah.
person who alleges to know Mr. Salim Essa is Ms. Suleiman.
Yeah.
And that's the affidavit that we are dealing with.
Chair,
Yes.
Chair, I want to,
So I said page 12,
1286. 1286.
87.
It starts at 87, actually.
Yes. It's a fairly short affidavit.
Yeah, I see that at paragraph 5 at 12, at page 1288, she says, I do
Chair,
hereby
please
confirm.
please go to,
Hang on, Mr. Koko. At paragraph 5, I see she says, I do hereby confirm that Travel Excellence has travel records for, and then he says, Anod Singh and Matshela Moses Koko, and then proceeds. Where must I go to?
right, 1315.
1350.
1315.
1315.
Yes.
Where is,
That's not in her affidavit, or is that another?
No, the
affidavit?
same budget, same Halana Al,
give me the page number?
1315.
1315.
Same, yeah, same.
But this is not in her affidavit.
Yeah, no, this.
You took me there.
It's a receipt, is that so?
Yes,
Yes,
that's on the same,
Yes.
yeah,
No, the distinction we are making, Mr. Cook, it's the affidavit has annexures, and I understand you are referring to an annexure to the affidavit, but we were looking for an allegation in her affidavit where she might be saying, I know Mr. Salim Essa, or I know Mr. Matshela Koko.
or I've dealt with.
Yes, so I've dealt.
But I think Mr. Koko, by referring to this page, he is drawing attention to the fact that she signed this
Exactly.
this
exactly.
receipt
Yes.
of 100,000 rand that was said that has got ESA as the person who sent EFT. But it's okay. These can be dealt with in due course. We don't need to
Yes,
to
but
deal
this,
with
this same receipt, we will get to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and in Suleiman's
yeah,
affidavit, because it's the same.
yeah.
It's the
No,
same.
no, that's fine.
Let's carry on.
We will have a look, but we
that's
we
the
are at
background.
6.
Yeah, Chair, can we finish this and then we can, at least this part?
Which part, Mr. Koko?
The one we're dealing with. We have to move. We started. Let's finish. I beg you.
Okay, Mr. Koko, you want the trips to be dealt with, or
Yes.
just this one?
I need the trips to be dealt with. I need the trips to be dealt with. But let's finish this one. We started at least.
Well, you see, you created the problem because you had something which could have waited until later, but you wanted to deal with it now.
I want to deal with it now.
You see, but we can't stay for too long. But I will give you a chance to deal with it when we come back. I will give you a chance. Can I talk to the legal teams in my chambers just now about, after we've adjourned, about seeing whether in the next few days and next week there might be some evenings where we could continue. But thank you, Mr. Koko, for availing yourself again. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the staff and the technicians. Thank you to you, Mr. Selega, and your team, and everybody. Yes. We are going to adjourn to tomorrow for the benefit of the public. I'm supposed to hear the evidence of Mr. Wakeford in relation to Bosasa. We adjourn.